What is going on, YouTube world? Brad, Steve, Vinny, Robert, uh, episode number 85 of the Insert Revolution podcast. Um, Obviously, if we have Brad on, we're not talking tiddlywinks. We're not talking Chinese checkers. I mean, we could. I don't know how many people to watch. But again, we're being inclusive there. Remember, inclusivity. So tonight will be a draft sort of theme show, of course. And we'll sort of rehash what happened free agency wise in the NFL. Go through the trades because, again, it's almost like a Madden game where there's so many trades that just people, it's like, hey, you want to trade Russell Wilson? Yeah, sure. What are you offering? Okay, we'll do it. Really? It's like, so, and again, it's not done yet. We've got, 9 days, I think, to the draft. Still plenty of time for shenanigans and transactions to transpire. So, well, there'll be a lot of stuff that we may say, we may prognosticate that, like, wow, they're spot on, and shit, there's about 8 trades during the draft, so that really threw a monkey wrench in any picks or prognostications we had there. So, first up, how's everybody doing?
Wonderful.
Wow, Brad, a one-word answer.
Wonderful. Ready to get my Super Bowl tickets ready this year. Until, the first month starts, and then you realize that's not happening again. But you play the Bills again, and you realize you still lose by 30.
Yeah, they'll be tough again. And I guess we'll start with your team. We may as well. They made some moves.
This is like the first off season. I don't have any complaints with anyone they picked up. Normally it's about 50-50. The running backs, Mozart and Edmonds, perfect fits for the zone scheme they're going to bring from San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Cedric Wilson, versatile wide receiver that as long as he doesn't have to be your first two, which is Waddle, and of course Tyreek Hill, they're separators. You notice they got rid of the contested catch guy in Devontae Parker because Tua ain't going to throw it in those places anyways, so he's worthless. So they get a guy who separates. So both guys they signed separate, so I love that. They kept the entire defense together. The only complaint is that they kept the middle linebackers together too because they stink. But that is pretty much the only hole in that defense is the middle linebacker spot. So honestly, if it wasn't for the loaded AFC, which we'll talk about, they should have easily made the playoffs this year. But of course, the 1 year where you should be a playoff team, well, yeah, all these trades happened and everyone came to the AFC.
I know I follow NFL stuff. We all do. When Tyreek got traded, for me, that was, I won't say a sucker punch, but it felt like I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't that he was on like the move or people were trying to like finagle their way to try to pick him up. It was like, because I know I screenshotted, sent it to you. I'm like, huh.
Yeah, I didn't.
What is
there
this?
was one guy that said something 2 weeks prior, but everyone just blew it off as he's trying to start a story, right? Because that's what half of them do is, hey, you go get Tyreek Hill. But you know whose fault this all is? The whole wide receiver market is Christian Kirk's fault. That's whose fault this all is. Who would have thought Christian Kirk, a guy who's never even caught like 1,000 yards in a season, this is his fault. He gets $21 million a year. So what does that cause every single wide receiver to do? I am way better than that guy. Because supposedly the Chiefs, they wanted to keep Tyreek Hill. They were offering him in that $20 million range, about what Kirk got. And then they all see that. Adam sees that. Price went up. Hill sees that. Well, Adam's got X. I want at least close to that. So this is all Christian Kirk's fault. I mean, that's what I think is hilarious. It's all his fault. He moved the market literally $10 million. Think about that. That's what happened with that. So,
I heard the line of thought that Jacksonville just doesn't know what the heck they're doing. So it's like nobody's really like giving any credit to that move at all.
Yeah, they overpaid every single person they signed. Now they did get better though, But again, do you want to go 6-11? That's basically what they did. So.
Well, in order to improve the record, you have to get a little better step by step. So.
Right. That's why I'm not hating on it like other people are, because they just drafted their quarterback last year. We're going to waste 2 more years by not having any team around them. So they had to overpay people to come in. And it isn't like they're scrubs they signed. They just signed second-tier players to first-tier contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they had to do. Otherwise, no one's going there, So I don't hate on them for it, because I actually love the Doug Peterson hire for them. But, yeah, it's just, unfortunately, in the scheme of things, it's going to do them no good this year. It's not really their fault. It's just the way it is.
It's not going to do the Steelers any good when they got Deontay Johnson to sign, and they don't really want to pay him $20 million. So
right, that went from a $13, $14, $15 million contract to 20 to 22. That's
DJ Lockett. That he's been bantied about in trade rumors too, because at some point, if these guys are getting that, and Lockett's, or not DJ Lockett, DJ Metcalf, he's like, I'm going to be up there too. I mean, I might not be getting Devontae and DeAndre Hopkins money, but I'm a notch below, not a big notch. I'm not down to Kirk, but we're at the $25 million. It's like, man, that's.
And this is where
I don't have a problem with those guys wanting the money, because again, you have to get the money when it's there.
Yep.
But do you want the money and a ring, or do you want to say, hey, I'll take 20 million, 18 million. Give me 4 years, 72. Give me 60 of it guaranteed. Give me 64 guaranteed. Opposed to like 45, 48, 52. And that way you can at least say, well, now we can sign that guard, that D tackle, that safety that we need, instead of, well, now we're up against the cap. And Brad Smith is going out there, and he's our outside linebacker. And, well, you know what? It's going to be sweet right every time, and Brad Smith is going to get trucked, because we couldn't get what we wanted to out there. We had to piecemeal it. So at some point, that's going to be a big thing. But again, I don't know how much titles mean to a lot of guys anymore. Because you have that social media presence. I want to be out there for a TikTok like Juju Smith. He's sitting there and he's doing dancing all the time. It's like, no, I want to be the guy that's in the weight room. I want to be the guy that's Jerry Rice running up the stadium for my training. I want to be better as a player. I don't give a shit about how many followers I have. I want rings. I want accolades. I want to prove my medal on the field, instead of give me 40 million. I want to be the first $40 million wide receiver, and I play for a team that's 4-13. Well, congratulations. Good for you. Your Madden rating is whatever, 96. Yippee. So
that's a loss of playing for the love of the game, though.
Oh yeah,
it's all about the money.
Yeah.
And the more youth, because that's what we always get every year, the consistent addition of youth starts changing the overall mentality across the league. So,
yeah,
it is what it is, unfortunately. But, at the end of the day, these guys are superstar athletes, and they want to get paid.
Yep.
I'm like you, Dave. I want to be the best at my position, or do my utmost to be the best at my position, and I want to play for championships.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, I would think championships mean a lot. They hold some sort of stature. You know, it's when you get elected to the Hall of Fame type situation, there's always that, you know, Super Bowl MVP or, you know, 5-time Super Bowl champion. You know, they add that to the list of accolades that, you know, go in line as far as your introduction type situation. Not that you have to win championships to make it to the Hall of Fame. That, you know, all of us can sit here and say that that's not what we're stating is a must, because there's a lot of great players out there that won't get there, won't taste the promised land, won't make it. But it's one of those in which, like, for me in just my situation, when I played soccer, I loved it for the longest time. But when I got to the point to where I no longer loved the game, I stepped away. And all these people nowadays, it's all about, well, how much money can you pay me? How much more money can I make? Show me the money.
All right. So with this whole Tom Brady thing, supposedly, right before he went to the Bucks, Stephen Ross had a meeting with him on a boat. This is the boat story that everyone originally thought was Deshaun Watson on the boat. Okay. But it was Tom Brady on the boat. Flores supposedly supposed to come in for this meeting. This is where the tension starts. All right. He won't even meet with him. And this was not for Tom Brady to become the quarterback necessarily of the Dolphins. This is to have a front office job, supposedly. Everybody thinks it was to be a quarterback. Supposedly it was supposed to be the front office job. So that obviously just fell through. So he goes and plays for the Bucks. And then now this offseason, he retires, right? Well, supposedly, again, the rumor is that we wanted Sean Payton to coach, and Tom Brady was going to have a front office. Again, not be quarterback, but be the front office guy this time. But then this Flores stuff hits. They basically fired me because I was black, even though we have literally the blackest organization front office in the league. But his boss was, general manager was black, for heaven's sakes. But, and then supposedly that just negated everything, and all of a sudden he comes back to play for the Bucks. That is supposedly the quick bits of what happened. No one really knows. I haven't seen any detailed, true information of anything else. But supposedly, don't be surprised, as long as Stephen Ross is the owner of the Dolphins, that Tom Brady has a front office gig somewhere in the next couple years with him, from the sound. Because they both went to Michigan and they have that connection. But
did you guys hear the Floyd Mayweather Antonio Brown story?
no.
And I don't know details, but apparently Floyd Mayweather is putting it out there that he's willing to basically pay a team to sign Antonio Brown, like $20 million. Just give the man a jersey. Give the man a jersey. He'll pay $20 million.
That's awesome.
I mean, I guess for a person to just be like, $20 million like that, I guess Floyd Mayweather fits that bill pretty well. But I didn't get I just heard it on our local station, because we have a reoccurring like check in on Antonio Brown segment, and and that's the latest.
Guy's a nut.
Yeah, if you can't maintain your cool, calm composure with Brady as your general on the field, and Arians, I mean, he's not some schlub coach where, again, he's letting the players run the asylum. You're gonna find it tough sledding. There's no, and again, the only one that you look at maybe would be like an Andy Reid. That would be somewhere, but again, how much do you want him to disrupt that locker room?
I know Arians is out as head coach. Is he still involved with the organization on some level?
Yeah.
They give you some title of
Yeah.
do nothing, give us your input here and there.
Consultants.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so that's going to be, like I think we said earlier in December when he threw the helmet off, threw his jersey against the Jets. It's like it's pretty much the last time you're going to see him unless somebody really is desperate. I mean, you have to have like the Rams out there be like, okay, whoop, Cooper Cup, ACL, whoop, Van Jefferson, ACL. If they re-sign OBJ, whoop, ACL for the third time. It's like, well, now who do we throw to? Henry Ellard's not coming back. Flipper Henry. Isaac Hayes, Bolt.
Pending a psychological evaluation would be the only way that I think a team would actually even contemplate the possibility.
And that would be Antonio Brown taking that, which I don't think he would take back. Because nothing's wrong with me, Welton. There's a laundry list of things that you've got going on.
Because he still has it. Like he was burning Xavier Howard earlier in the year.
Yeah.
He still has. That's what the sad part is he's still at least a number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
But he's just a nutcase now.
No, that's the problem. You got all world talent, and you got like a wish brain. I mean, you don't even have a full brain. It's just a wish brain. You get like a strip of brain, and that's it. You got the dollar store knockoff. There's nothing. Synapses are firing, but they're not firing together. They're firing out in the field, foul balls. I mean, it's Willie Mays Hayes for Antonio Brown in his brain.
So for the Philly alum here at the bottom of the screen, is it playing for Pittsburgh that like makes these guys go off the deep end? I mean, you've had multiple receivers, you've had a running back. Is it the smog? Is it the steel in the air? I mean, what's going on, fellas? I mean,
no,
is there
they get a taste of stardom for playing for the black and gold, and it goes to their head.
It started with
young. I don't know. I think it might have something to do with the quarterback's ego as well, but
no.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, because right now I think Chase Claypool's turning into, he wants to have music playing during practice, and like it's not fun, and he's taking a page out of Juju's book with just the social media. Dude, they're building brands now, I mean, that's what it is. It's not just about X's and O's and, winning on Sunday. Give me that money and I'm going to get it however I can.
Then guess what? Go be a freaking social media superstar and get your followers and everything else. Let the kids who want to play and play to win, play.
Now, there's a lot of talk of like, Tomlin is a player's coach, but that kind of give an inch, take a mile scenario where at a certain point he lost the locker room, because they had Mike Wallace, Antonio, and Emmanuel Sanders. They were the young money crew, and that was just the start of some I don't know, like, you had all the old curmudgeons like my dad, and like, these ain't the Steelers that I know. And it's just a different time, and trying to balance that like Steeler way of doing thing versus the age that we're in. So the social media age that we are in, I don't know, it's tough. That's my 2 cents.
I was going to say, Vinny, your take?
It all started, like Bob said, with Young Money. When I saw that, they had a who was it got pulled over for weed? Was it Santonio or was it who was it that got busted for 6 months for weed? I forget who it was.
I think there was a couple people that did.
Yeah, but that was the start.
Antonio got he was going like over 100 miles an hour on McKnight Road.
Yeah, that didn't help either.
That was one. I thought it was LeGarrette Blunt because
Maybe it was.
they kept making the obvious joke with the guy's name being LeGarrette Blunt. And I think Le'Veon, I don't know if Le'Veon was involved in that or not. I don't know. And then you had Mike Adams, the lineman, getting stabbed on the south side. Like, that just seemed to be something in the news they couldn't stay out of the news.
Santonio shooting himself in the leg.
No,
Plaxico, but yeah,
Plaxico.
that happened too.
That's right.
Sweatpants and a firearm just don't mix.
But as you were saying, Vinny.
And then you had, Ben wrecked his Hayabusa on going through the tunnels. It was just a recipe for disaster. And that's when it all started. Young Money but Ben calmed down after that. I think Charlie Batch was the saving grace for Ben.
And actually Arians was too. Arians really sort of mentored Ben in a lot of ways.
Then who came after Arians?
Well,
Todd Haley
was there. But Todd Haley was there for a while, and that did not go.
No, that was bad.
Any good press you heard from those two was a lie.
And all this, you still have not had a losing season.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do it.
That's like the fact, and that's like become the new, like, we have 6 Super Bowls mantra. Well, we haven't had a losing season, and it's just that's become good enough. Which I don't know. I do understand not having a losing season when there are plenty of teams that have losing seasons often. But it's like the goal is no longer to win the Super Bowl, it seems like.
No.
And when your quarterback's supported by the stink line and all the other flippers, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we could have got Sam Darnold, but then it would be even more chaotic. But we got Mitchell. We'll see how it goes.
Dude, they still bring up Mason Rudolph, who they drafted in the 3rd round, but quoting Kevin Colbert, they had a 1st-round grade on him. And they still drafted James Washington before Mason Rudolph. And so it's like, must not have been that important. They've been spinning the Mason Rudolph line for far too long. And now shows even further after picking up Trubisky just how much faith they have in Mason Rudolph. So I'm glad I invested in that Gem Mint 10 Prism rookie of his.
Making plays, Bob. Making plays.
Right.
So the Tyreek Hill to the Chiefs loss is actually, I think, a pretty big deal, especially the first half of the year, because the tired narrative I'm sick of hearing is, well, now Tua can't throw deep to Tyreek Hill like Mahomes did. All right. He caught 9 passes all year over 20 yards from Mahomes in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Big play. That isn't the Andy Reid offense he came from. Yeah, he would run around every once in a while and throw one up to him. Okay, but that was not all the time. Most of it was 7-yard, 5-yard, 9-yard that he took 40 to 50, 60 yards. So I think it's a big deal because they got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who is your straight line speed guy, but they're going to have to find one that's more of the underneath after the catch guy. which I'm sure they'll try to draft. And like I said, they'll still be functional. Andy Reid's offenses are always good, but they will not be scary all the time like they were before. You were scared every time. Well, ask the Buffalo Bills. You know, every time he touched it, you knew if someone missed a tackle, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, someone took a bad angle, you're in trouble. So I think it's actually a big deal.
And I agree with you, Brad. I've read a few articles where, you know, they spin it a different way. You know, the narrative is spun a different way, that in the end, Kansas City isn't any worse without him. Types. It's one of those in which, like you, there's always that possibility that you just don't know. Of all the superstar players that are in the league, I can sit here and say, as a Bronco fan, Tyreek Hill is always the one who has scared me, because he is a threat at any point in the game, no matter if it's a dunk or an end around, or if they got him back returning punts, you know, because they do that from time. He's a threat at any point in time in the game, and he can completely change the momentum in a split second. So to see him go, I was doing one of these.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see him go. But, you know, it's one of those in which one player doesn't make a team. We all can agree on that. It is a team sport. But, you know, as far as dynamic is, when you think of dynamic players, he's one of the first ones that comes to my mind every time. And regardless of Tua's inabilities, and I'll leave it at that, he still has a lot to prove, but he's a young quarterback. So I always give younger quarterbacks a little bit of credit. But he has made the Dolphins a better team just by adding that dynamic threat possibility. So,
Brad, what is the pulse of like Dolphin fans regarding Tua? Like, is that sort of the take? Like, they're still giving him a chance, but his time is running out, or like, are there people that are
now the narrative is there's no excuses. All right. It's driving me nuts because I was not even the biggest Tua fan coming out, you know?
Yep.
Like, I was like, I know he's solid. He's safe, is how I worded it. You know what you're getting. So it's like, he's 13-8 as a starter. My biggest worry was, would he stay healthy? And he's been hurt 2 different times already, which is why we didn't make the playoffs last season, because we had to start Jacoby Brissett, 4 times, But the guy is accurate as all get out, but when the play breaks down, you're not getting anything out of him. And when you have the 32nd ranked offensive line, the play breaks down a lot. All right. So that's why the biggest signing for us were the 2 offensive linemen, Teron Armstead and Connor Williams. Because if Teron Armstead can stay healthy, he's a top 5 left tackle, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll make a huge difference. If you can be 16th best offensive line in the league, I think you'll be fine. But the narrative is about 50-50. Everyone wanted Watson, right? Half of them wanted Watson. And then you have the other half of don't say anything bad about Tua. So it really is like the extreme one way or the other. I'm kind of like in between, where I feel like I'm defending him for most people who don't actually watch the games. That's why I say I'm getting tired of the tired narrative of he doesn't throw deep. Do you know he averages more air yards than Justin Herbert per pass?
Yeah.
Stuff, again, it's narratives that are out there. Now, Justin Herbert has a stronger arm. I'm not, but this narrative, like, the game's not played like that. The game is played under 15 yards. That's where the game's played at, with the threat 3 or 4 times a game to go over that. But yeah, to answer your question, that's the narrative. If he is not good this year, he's done. If he is, we'll say 25 touchdowns, 14 picks, he's gone. I think. If he doesn't throw 30 touchdowns, he's gone. That's my
Didn't y'all get Bridgewater as a backup?
yes. Which, if you're going to have Tua even long term, even if he proves he's the guy, you have to constantly spend $10 million, $8 million a year on a guy like that because he most likely will miss a month of the year, and you can't afford to go 0-4 when he misses. So
the only issue I had with Bridgewater is his when he got his panties in a bunch because he screwed up or whatever. He like just gave up and start walking off the field. Guess what? Until the whistle's blown, the play ain't dead. I know he's been in the league a while and he's older, but I mean, come on now. It's you got to give it your all. He gave Denver chances to win. I mean, look at what Denver did to Dallas. Right. I mean, if Bridgewater and that offense and the defense played like that consistently, they wouldn't have been in the situation that they were this season. You know, they were clicking on all cylinders because they let Dallas freaking have it. And I was loving it, of course, living in Texas because, you know, as I'm walking down the street, I'm going, how you like that ass kicking? Of course, I couldn't say much after, you know, pretty much the rest of the season, but Bridgewater is not bad. He's I'll give him average.
Yep.
He's not going to kill you with deep threats. He's a, you know, a dunker. He goes for the short passes. I won't say he's inaccurate, but he's not accurate all the time. But he's not horrible. And, you know, he gave us, in my opinion, a better chance to win than Locke did. But, you know, I'm probably the outlier when it comes to Locke. That guy's head wasn't in the game. He didn't put in the effort. If you want to lead a football team and be the face of the franchise, so to speak, and be the future of a team, you got to put in the time, the effort, and the practice more than anybody. Mm-hmm. And I just don't feel like he was putting in the time and the effort. If he does well in Seattle, great. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to be the starter in Seattle, personally.
No.
They'll draft a quarterback. I really think they'll draft a quarterback. My opinion. I'll be interested to hear what Brad has to say when we start going through, you know, because as far as I'm concerned, Seattle still needs a quarterback. Drew Lock is not their future, regardless of what
Smith is not their future.
Which is, you know, whatever they spin in the media up there and some of the other you know, sports reporters out there claiming, you know, that they're really high on Drew Lock, and I'm like, either
they're really high on Drew Lock.
It's like, holy cow! That guy is. I had high hopes for him. I thought he was going to be the future, and you know, he just indecisive, not very accurate. I'm glad he's gone. I'll say that much. I wish him well. I mean, I don't ever wish one of my old players to be crappy by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think he's the future in Seattle. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
For the Chiefs too, you take into consideration now, okay, you couldn't double Tyreek, you couldn't double Kelsey, because if you doubled them, somebody was single coverage, even if you had some like a backer underneath. Now you can double Kelsey and not really feel bad about it. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh shit, we have to pick and choose and sort of run a different coverage. Well, no. Juju, like all Pittsburgh receivers, now on Kansas City, can't catch. I don't give a shit about showing a tennis ball. I know that's Deontay and his gimmick there, the pregame tennis ball drill. But none of these guys can fucking catch. Everybody drops it. I mean, literally everybody drops the ball. So I don't expect him to come over to Kansas City and all of a sudden, well, now I can catch it all the time. So you got him. Valdez-Scantling, same problem. I mean, you have stuff that was wide open deep balls and he'd drop it from Rodgers. So, I mean, it's not like Josh McCown's out there throwing it to him. It's another surefire Hall of Fame quarterback. And it's going to really change up that offense, I think. Where it's basically the old, and again, it's too old for most anyone that's born after like 2000, but I go back to like the either a run and shoot or like the UNLV basketball team on a football field where you're jet sweeps with tight ends. Kelsey's got it, but then next play Kelsey throws the ball and he's thrown to McCole Hardman for an 80-yard pass. Not him throwing 80, but again the slant for 15, and nobody's thinking, okay, well, Kelsey ain't throwing it. You got stuff like that there that they incorporated. Now it's all of a sudden it's gonna be a different ball of or a different bag of cereal. You're like, well, I don't know what's going on here. You're gonna have to temper your expectations for the Chiefs fans, but over the last 3 years, it's like, well, no, we got to go Super Bowl or bust. Well, be prepared for a bust this year. I still see them being in playoff contention, but they're going to have to do a lot of stuff with that running game. A lot. Because you cannot, as you saw last year, rely on Mahomes as much as you did because he was getting jacked by the end of the year because that line was like a dike on the Red River breaking this time of year. I mean, the floodgates would open because they just didn't have anyone. Again, Orlando Brown, all pro. I know they got one other guy. I don't know if it's a center, but then you got guards that were iffy, and I think the other tackle was iffy.
And as you said, if a team knows you're throwing every down, you're going to have problems. You know? Like, you don't have to be a dominant run team by any stretch nowadays, but you've got to have that threat where it just, even if it's for a half a second, they pause. You know, that's the difference between getting sacked and not a lot of times, you know. So to answer his question, I would say the Deshaun Watson civil cases will not be even through before this season ends. So I don't think he's getting suspended this year. All right. So I think their thought, they would give Baker Mayfield away for anything. They would give you something to take him at this point. No one wants to pay $18 million for him is the problem.
Yep.
So the Seahawks, Panthers are basically the two main ones people are looking at that have the money to take him on. But so I think the thought process is, what they sign? They signed Brissett, I think. So they're thinking we don't really need one this year because if Watson gets hurt, your season's over anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So their thought process next year we'll look into a legitimate backup. But yeah, they will give anything. They will probably give you something to take Baker Mayfield. It would be like a Brock Osweiler type trade, But I think that's what they're thinking is they don't have to worry about him being suspended this year because they're going to wait for those civil cases to be done. And we know, and from what I understand, it's going to be another year until that happens. So I think that's why they're not really worried about it. But they would give him away today to anyone that wants him. They don't need anything in return.
Yeah, I think that'll be more towards the draft. But they won't be able to attach basically anything the next couple of years, draft-wise, because I gave it all away to Houston. So somebody will jump on just because the talent's there. People figure a way out if they really want something. And at some point, would I want him on my team? Yes. Would I want him starting or necessarily being like the focal point? At this time, I don't think so. I really don't know. As we just said about the money, it's the same way with leadership. You want a quarterback that can command the room, but not be a pissant, whiny bitch when shit goes wrong. And again, in NFL today, it's a lot of that happens. There's just breakdowns, and you've got better players, quicker players, stronger players than there were 20, 30 years ago. So that's going to happen. Mental breakdowns happen because you're worried about your TikTok followers or your Instagram posts or whatever it is. And that's where he gets all wound up and he'll start firing off the chin straps and throwing the ball. And again, if I know anything about anything football, it's about pissant quarterbacks. Because fucking Phyllis Rivers was there for how many years for the Chargers, and I've explained my disdain for him. In those situations where it's like, just have a level head. If somebody ran the wrong route, don't go fucking sprinting to the guy or go pointing at the guy. That's not going to help.
He was.
You can't always have like the coach be the parent and be like, come here, Tommy, come here, Philip, hug and make up. No. Fucking be a man, say, man, you should have ran this route. Sorry, I forgot. Whatever. He jammed me and I slipped, and that's what happened. Okay. Explanation? Move on instead of, well, fuck you. You suck. Now Jarvis Landry hates everybody in Cleveland, and he ain't going back. But he wants $20 million, so that's, again, he's out in Seattle with those guys getting high over Drew Lock's potential. So I wouldn't mind Baker, but it'd have to be something where he would have to. You'd have to almost, and again, he's only got the 1 year left.
Yeah.
On the contract. So you'd almost have to like parlay his pay into some sort of bonus. Like, hey, mid-season, we'll give you the rest. We'll get 9 and 9.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, his whole thing's guaranteed because it's still the first round pick, fifth year thing. So whether he gets released, traded, he's getting that $18 million.
Yeah.
So the Browns might just end up having to release him, pay him the $18 million, and then another team would sign him for sure at 10, 8.
Oh,
you know, what Mariota's got and those kind of guys, Winston, they'll sign him to that, no problem. But they aren't gonna. They just don't want to pay him 18 for a guy he may start 6 weeks. You know, and we're definitely not giving up assets for him. You know.
Yeah, it becomes a money issue and a leadership issue.
Right.
I know Paul and I were kind of going back and forth on direct message on Instagram about Baker, and it's like it's not because of lack of talent.
Mm-mm.
The guy can play. He's proven it. Does he have areas of improvement? Absolutely. As a quarterback, there's always ways to improve your game. You know, no matter how good Mahomes is, he can still get better. Breeze still had to get better. Peyton, Marino, Montana, Favre, Rodgers, you know, all these top tier guys, there's always ways to improve your game. So the kid's got talent. The guy can play. He is a difference maker. But like you said, Dave, he's a whiny baby. And when things don't go his way, he's going to throw a temper tantrum. And that is an indication of a lack of leadership. And you can call it passion all you want. It isn't.
No.
He's still too young-minded, I think is the right word I'm thinking of. He hasn't matured in that aspect. And, you know, you look at somebody like a Herbert, younger than Baker, but shows poise. Yes, I haven't seen him play much, but I'm sure he's expressed frustrations and everything else like quarterbacks do. But you grow and you mature as you move into your your exception of the role that you have for the team. Mm-hmm. And as a quarterback, you're the head. I mean, you are supposed to be the guy who first people that they talk to after a game. You know, it's always the quarterback. Good, bad, and different. It doesn't matter. They're usually wanting to talk to the quarterback. And, you know, it's one of those in which I don't want to call him a cancer because he's not, you know, Manziel type, off the deep end type mentality wise. But, you know, at the same time, do you want to deal with that aspect or that characteristic on your team. If he could find a way to grow up and mature some and find a way to express frustrations in a more beneficial type way, who wouldn't want him on their team? He is a difference maker. The kid can play. But Brad, like you said, it becomes it's a combination. Money. People, he's not that caliber yet to get that kind of money. Right. He has a ways to go. And a lot of that I think has to do with maturity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. But like you said, Brad, I think what's going to somehow, shape, form, or fashion, they're just going to have to release him and eat it. I mean, because he'll hold out. It's not like he's going to show up to training camp and everything else. He's gonna be that guy, and I can't blame him.
No,
I mean, I can't. I mean, if I were him, I'd be pissed off and frustrated and aggravated too. It's like, I'm supposed to be your guy, and then you go in and spend all this kind of money, and you bring this other guy in that you don't even know how much he's gonna play because of all the pending litigation and everything else surrounding him. So I feel bad for the kid. I mean, I do. I really do.
When did you give up the Ricky Williams type haul for him? So, I mean, not only do you again, we've always said draft picks aren't guarantees, but you give away that many draft picks, sure, you get a couple mid-round, late-round things back. Not like the Browns have hit on many of those. And then you give them $250 million guaranteed.
If the owners were not happy about that at the owners' meeting, from what I hear.
Just when you think the Browns, like a couple of years ago, when that cusp, they're like, okay, like your Dolphins, it's like you made a lot of these moves. You finagled a war chest of draft picks. Probably should have traded a few more to, like what you guys did, to get some sort of superstar to assist your quarterback. You've got the line, you've got the D line, you've got backers, you've got secondary. Receivers, it was sort of hit or miss. Tight ends, same there. You had pieces there. Running backs, you've had backs that have been solid, and for me, it seems like they're even with the Watson move, and Cooper coming over from Dallas, you are going backwards. And I mean, not just like a couple steps. You're going to be, I think, like a 4-13, 5-12 team this year.
Well, Deshaun's going to suck. He hadn't played in a year.
No, oh yeah. And then, I mean, again, a new team, a new system. I don't care how much in the offseason you learn the verbiage, getting out there and now going through your Texan stuff and taking that out, putting in the Cleveland playbook, it's like I'm expecting a dumpster fire. I'm expecting Carlos with the Elmo, the burning meme. There's nothing. When they made the trade, I'm like, oh, Watson going to Cleveland. Then you find out what he's getting or what they're giving up. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. Well, how much did they? What they signed him? What? This guy didn't play last year. He's got right now a bigger rap sheet than fucking OJ. I'm like, it seems like every week some masseuse is coming out of the woodwork because his pants were down too far. It's like, come on now. That it just on so many levels. I don't care how badly you want to win. On so many levels, it reeks of utter desperation to try to be relevant, to try to push towards something you probably aren't going to have in the next 10 years until you absolutely overhaul everybody from top to bottom. And just, I like Stefanski. I love him as a coach, but it's just not a no-win situation for him.
Yes, but they were at least relevant with Baker.
Oh, I know.
That's the other flip side to all of this. It's like, what were they thinking? I mean, you almost want to sit there and be like, could I have been a fly in the room when they were having these conversations and talks and being like, what were they thinking?
Baker had a separated shoulder from pretty much end of October, mid-October on. And he played through it all but one or two games, maybe three?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, again, for as much shit as we'll give him, I know a shoulder injury. I know what those feel like. So I can't imagine playing, again, opposite your throwing shoulder. Still, though, we're not, again, when there's no Chinese checkers or tiddlywinks or chess. You're getting jacked by Max Crosby and DNs. Cameron Hayward's coming through and smashing. It's like, these aren't Powerpuff Girls. These aren't wrestling buddies. These are huge men killing you. And he's not a big dude to begin with. So if I'm Baker, I'm just saying, you know what? I'm staying away from you guys. You have done me dirty. You've done me wrong. I've tried a lot. I'm not perfect, but in the same breath, it's like you guys pretty much were like jerking off in the corner over Deshaun Watson, and I'm sitting right next to you. It's like my right hand still works. It's like, come on, guys. So, yeah, I know he's sitting out the camp this week or whatever they got going on. It's like I don't expect him to be back in Cleveland unless he's playing for another team and they go there. I don't. And I think the Cleveland fans will boo, which is they're stupid, but that's why they don't deserve a win. They don't work. And again, I'm a Browns fan. That's my second team. I've said it many a time because Mr. Northcutt. It's just the brain power isn't there, and it never will be. That's why Rick Steiner and the dog face, dog pound stuff. It's like that's perfect because there's not much brains there. Perfect. Everybody wins. Let's talk about the NFC a little. Again, there's a lot to talk about AFC wise, but also let's talk about the NFC North. A lot of stuff going on there. Yep. You got Devontae leaving Green Bay, along with Zadarius Smith. Vikings making moves. Again, I don't know how they're getting everything under the cap. It amazes me. Chicago getting rid of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. And then Allen Robinson ducks out because he doesn't want to see 10-yard overthrows from Justin Fields every 4 plays. And Detroit, they're Detroit.
So the Bears are going to be bad this year, but this is what they should have done like 2 years ago. The worst thing they did was make the playoffs 2 years ago when they snuck, kind of like what the Eagles did last year. They just snuck in as the last team and got blown out. This is what they should have done 2 years ago. The GM's just cleaning house of the bad contracts, but they're going to be bad this year. And he has no draft capital to work with. So they're going to be bad. So it's actually the Lions will not be in the bottom of that division. That's my prediction. And that's a hot take, because I actually like kind of where they're headed. Now I just feel like they're going to screw it up, but I like where they're headed. Green Bay, it's funny. They're going to be a defensive team with a great aging quarterback. Mm-hmm. So that is a combination that has worked for teams in the past, though. So, they may not win as many regular season games, but maybe they'll actually be more playoff. They'll be forced to commit to the running game, which they have 2 great running backs that
Mhm.
complement each other perfectly. So I look for them to pick up an alignment in the draft. And then will this be the year they draft the wide receiver in round 1? I don't know.
No.
They have 2 of them. Like I said, I'm pretty sure one of them is going to be an offensive lineman. But what do they do with the other one? Do they draft a receiver, or do they do what they normally do and just take the other best available player at another position? But, yeah. So, and then the Vikings. To me, they're always fun to watch, but you just know they're fake good. Like, they're going to be like the 8-9. 9-8, they're going to have great wins and bad losses, So I don't see them as really a threat. But the good thing is they are in the NFC, so they can make the playoffs at 9-8, or like it is possible. So, but they're not a title threat,
No.
But yeah, that's kind of how I see that. So it's basically a 2-team division still. But I do like with the Lions. The Lions are on an upward trajectory. But you still have Jared Goff, and I think he stinks. So,
And we'll talk about it when it gets to draft time, because that'll be one of the first teams I bring up. Will be Detroit, because they're one of the most interesting, with basically bookends for the first round. So it's a lot of interesting possibilities there. Again, we both, I know, look at a lot of the draft stuff because it's interesting to us. We love it.
Yeah.
And I love prognostications. It's just something. Hey, this guy predicted this. Well, let's see what this guy said and go from there. But running game, Swift, if he ever decides to stay healthy for at least 14 games, at least.
He's got the goods, but yeah, concussion too is like the worst.
Yeah,
so.
that just seems to bleed year in, year out, and you get dinged once, you're out for 5-6 games. It's like, man, you have all-world talent, some insane speed. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
He, not only from a fantasy football standpoint, which he helped me last year, but I mean, he just is that good. I'd say he's like
took a flyer on DJ Shark too.
Okay,
if he can be healthy, which he just hasn't been the last 2 years. People forget he had a monster season in Jacksonville a couple years ago.
Yeah,
so that could be one that pays off to complement him. So, yeah, like I said, I like where the Lions are going. But yeah, they are one of the more interesting squads in the draft for sure.
And then that NFC West shaking up because again, Seattle. I know last year they're bad, which again leads them to trade away Wilson and say, well, we got to get a rebuild at some point because again, half our roster is 60 and over. It's like we got to start piecing them out. Then 10-13, Denny, he loses his favorite player. Bobby Wagner goes down to the Rams. San Fran is still. It doesn't sound like Garoppolo's team at all. It sounds like Trey Lance. They're pretty much handing over the reins, and that's another quarterback that is sort of in limbo right now. It's like, what? I'm a step up from the Trent Dilfer.
Right.
The one or the two words that every quarterback just probably punch you like Jim Everett and Jim Rome. And they call him Chris Everett.
Yeah.
When you hear game manager, most of the time Garoppolo, I mean, there'll be mistakes. Every quarterback makes them. You're not foolproof or Teflon to mistakes. Every quarterback makes them. He just has to make them at the times he makes them are the worst.
Right.
That's the problem with Garoppolo. You say, hey, just throw the ball away, take the sack, do something. Don't chuck it up there. We're not playing 500. We're not 9 years old. It's not going to work out well. But his market, Baker's market, those are two that I'm anxious for the next 9 days, especially during the draft after that first round. You can sort of see where the chips are starting to fall. After the second round, it's going to be even more like, okay, here's where the maneuvering's going. Debo Samuel, he wants a huge contract too. I think he's got, what is it, him, McLaurin, and someone else.
AJ Brown.
Yep, those three are like
This is the advantage of not being picked in the first round. You get paid first.
Yep.
So you actually get the big money first if you are elite. Because they don't have your rights for 5 years like they do a first rounder. Yep. So you actually get your money earlier. So in the long run, you could end up making more money than the first round guy.
Yep.
Or at least quicker. So
you got that situation there. Again, they're always solid in defense. Their old line is. It depends on you got to replace Tomlinson, who did well. Who I didn't think was going to be amount to a hill of beans after Detroit released him. McGlinchey's got to come back from an ankle injury. Depends on how he does there, so that's going to augment possibly whatever draft plans they have. And then you have the Rams, who I don't think have a draft pick till like 2033.
Oh, I thought it was 2065.
It's somewhere in there. I mean, I think they've traded. That's the team that's sort of like the Ditka Saints. I mean, they just don't want to. They don't care about the draft picks. They want the player.
They made it worth it, though. They won their title. It was all worth it.
They got it.
And I still don't think they'll be bad though either.
No.
Like I said, their margin of you saw when their safety went down, they had to go sign Eric Weddle off the street because they literally just don't have anybody behind these starters.
No.
Robert Woods gets hurt. They have to go get Odell because they have nothing behind them. So it's just a way to it's just a small margin of error you're running on, but your elite top talent, you can get it done. If you can enough of you can be healthy at the same time, you'll be all right.
So I think that's the Rams division again to lose. I mean, there's not really, and Arizona. I don't know. That 2 years ago, that looked like, oh my God, this team's going to be
the first half of every season. They look that way. They're 5-3, 6-2, and then 2-6. They're at the last 8 games. Like they just look awful.
Well, and now there's rumors somehow with Kyler and Dallas. It's like they just paid Dak a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I don't even
Help
know
me
how
understand how that. Yeah, how that even makes sense, unless they do a straight up trade.
Yeah, where each team just takes each other's cap hit almost, and it works out the same. Yeah, I guess you could do that.
But that doesn't make sense though either. Kyler's not their problem.
No, that secondary, again, you knew Patrick Peterson was getting long in the tooth. You let him go. Still had a productive year in Minnesota. So that's like, well, that was a miss there. You have Budda Baker. Your O-line at times looks good. Then one gets injured.
Better. But, yeah.
You get one guy hurt. It literally cripples the whole O-line to like Pee-wee football, where they just can't. I mean, Tyler's back there throwing off his back foot after 2 steps. It's like you can't. And then Hopkins getting hurt. Again, you lose Kirk, which, you got Rondell Moore. I like him a lot from Purdue. Just second rounder, I think, last year. Super speedy, very solid hands. I mean, that can be your Tyreek Hill in a couple years. I mean, he's that quick. I still think the Rams to lose. It just there seems to me too much, like Steve said, too much turmoil starting to bubble up. Kyler wants to get big money. It's like, well, again, stay healthy, shut the fuck up, and win. I don't want a 9-8 team. If you want to get paid, see ya. Somebody's going to pay you, and again, it probably won't be somebody you want to go to. It'll be a Chicago who, after another year of Field being garbage, well, we need somebody in here. Somebody retires. Rodgers says, "Yeah, I'm done." Tampa, they shuffle around because their cap hits are all like a 1-year deal, and Brady goes off in the sunset. It's like you built something in Arizona where it hasn't been built. I don't know ever. I mean, back in the Deerdorf days, but that was in St. Louis. There's the St. Louis Cardinals. So it's like, who have you had since then? Neil Lomax, Dave Craig, Jake the Snake, Josh McCown. I mean, Christian Kirk. You took Emmitt Smith pretty much off the scrap heap for a retirement victory lap or whatever, and that worked out well. Now you've got somebody in place. Just if two sides have the same goal, like, hey, we want to get to the Super Bowl and win. Hey, I want to play in the Super Bowl and win. Let's talk. No, I'm going to post something on Twitter. No, you're a fucking idiot. Shut up. Just communicate face to face, and then don't turn around with your phone and no, just keep your business inside the four walls of your house. Until a point it's like, you know what, we've exhausted every avenue and said, I need a trade. I can't deal with whatever situation's going on here. We're not going to come to a long-term deal. I don't like the way the picks, the draft picks are. I don't like the free agent signings. I don't feel like I'm valued. If you want to say that, that's fine. You put that out there, but guess what? You're not going to have 5,000 bouquets of roses at your doorstep because, oh, poor baby, you're getting $20 million. No, I feel bad for you. Kyler just needs to shut up, like Baker, because I like him a lot. He's got such talent where you haven't seen it. That throw against Buffalo, I hurt my back every time I watch it because it's such a contortion of the body where you throw it and you're throwing a pin, you're throwing a dart to Hopkins and he catches it for the touchdown. There are maybe 2 or 3 quarterbacks that can do that, maybe, and he's got legs. I love his game. Him to the Vikings, if they stop being foolhardy with Cousins.
You're stuck with old Captain Kirk, buddy.
I know. I don't know if I'd be a Vikings fan, but I'd be like, okay, I want to watch the Vikings because that would be fun. That would be a fun seeing him throw to Jefferson and Thielen. That would be a joy. But he's in Arizona. I don't know. It befuddles me that all these quarterbacks just piss whine, but now it's accepted. If I'm a GM, I'm like, you know what? Do I want the headache? I've already got headaches here, and here. Do I want my fucking main guy to always be chirping?
But it's always your quarterback.
Oh, I know.
From the beginning of time.
Fuck you, Jim McMahon.
He just has to work on his setup, Dave.
Really,
I think if he had stocks for the setup.
Dave, shut up. Just shut up.
Come on.
Oh, I hate you guys. I hate you.
I know.
I hate you. Hate you both. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm going to throw my hat off and I'm leaving.
So I think the Rams will take it. Arizona, again, healthy. You can say that with every team, but Hopkins is out there completely different. They are absolutely night and day. So unless they draft somebody, unless they take one of these flyers on one of these guys that are out there, the Julio Jones, the Jarvis Landrys, they try to convince them to bring their prices down or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be a true contender, even for that NFC West. And San Fran, it just still depends on Garoppolo, what the hell they're going to do there. And well, you're in luck, Paul.
So, in other words, Dave, be quiet and let Brad talk. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I know. I'll say NFC East. Rip through there quick.
We don't care.
Yeah.
Cowboys got worse.
That's a plus.
There's nothing really to talk about there other than
Yes.
I will say one thing. Living, of course, in Texas, you know, every time you turn around, it's Dallas this, Dallas that, you know. But the consensus is across the board, most fans are pretty upset with the fact of what Dallas has done or not done in the offseason. And when you have Stephen Jones come out and say, you don't win the championship in the offseason. Actually, that's where it starts. That's how you build your team, is in the offseason. So, yeah, technically, it starts in the offseason. I'm surprised they didn't keep Cooper, honestly. But, you know, it was one of those in which I think he was getting frustrated because he was getting the double teams, so therefore he wasn't getting the looks. And he considers himself a number one. And I can't say he's not deserving of that representation, but as a number one receiver, that's what you have to expect. Getting the double teams. You have to figure out a way to get open. You know, that's your job. Quit whining about it and figure out ways to get open for your quarterback. But I saw that division, in my opinion, get weaker this offseason. And that's just my opinion. But nothing that I can think of sticks out really in that division at all. That's worthwhile.
Carson Wentz going to Washington doesn't move the needle for you.
No. It doesn't make him any better. It doesn't make him any worse. But
yeah, I think the Eagles are about the only team getting better in that division. So they're going to be getting closer to Dallas. Dallas still might win that division just by default, but the Eagles are actually getting closer. They're closing the gap. So, and then the Giants, well,
they're the Giants right now.
I really can't figure out why that team's that bad. They're kind of an enigma to me because, like, offensively, they should be good, and they're not. They stink, and I can't really put. And it's not just the quarterback or just it's just like a combination of everything. It's just crap.
They're not cohesive. They don't. It's almost like they don't play together.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like, because I was like, last year I thought they were one of those teams that would be entertaining to watch, even if they didn't win games. They weren't entertaining to watch. They were awful. They were hard to watch. And I was like, and I couldn't understand it.
Especially the last half when their quarterback play was Glennon and whoever else. I mean, it was
really
abysmal.
Bad. Yeah.
It was when you're going 4 for 18 and like 28 yards and 2 picks and 2 fumbles, and you're not getting pulled because you don't have anybody else. You know you're struggling.
Yeah.
NFC South, Tampa Bay. That's all we got to say. Everybody else. again,
And then
more
New Orleans is always good. You know, they're kind of the Steelers of the NFC, I would say. You know, the way they're always just kind of good. But are they going to win a title? No. But are they going to make the playoffs? Probably. You know.
It'll be interesting. I don't know. It's for the Saints. It's you got to rely on quarterback play, and again, that will probably talk more about that draft time. It's again 2 first-round picks, but you lose Winston again. You get the red rifle down there, and then you got Taysom Hill, but they've said he's pretty much now out of that hybrid quarterback, tight end, H-back, whatever the heck he was down there, out of that role. Which I guess for him is probably good. I mean, I'd hate to learn a playbook for like 3-4 different positions because that's just a lot of verbiage. You got to try to remember everything. It's like, no. And losing Armstead, that's not going to help. You got Kamara. Michael Thomas is going to be your X factor. See what the hell he wants to do this year. But
I feel like it's just been forever since we've seen Michael Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think did he play last year? No.
Yeah, I think it's basically 2 years since we've seen Michael Thomas.
Because
One with an injury, one with so it's
he played what about a month, 5
right.
games in that couple years ago, and that was it because of the ankle injury or whatever. So yeah, Tampa Bay to lose. Everybody else, that's I'm going to say 7-10 is going to be the next best record of that division. They're going to beat each other once, and that's it. Tampa Bay should probably sweep, but they'll lose to either New Orleans once or both times because that's the MO the last few years.
Yeah.
AFC North, Cleveland, we said it's probably, at least I said they're going to be a fucking disaster. Pittsburgh is going to struggle. Baltimore, again.
I look for Baltimore to get back to being Baltimore this year. Because that defense, their whole secondary was gone last year.
Yep.
The entire secondary literally was hurt. So they're all coming back. I would assume that can't happen again. And yeah, they're going to be back to their, I'd say 11-6, 12 win type material. I think they're going to be the team on the comeback for sure. I think.
And Cincinnati, that'll be, I won't say they'll repeat, but now you've laid the groundwork for a repeat of success.
Right.
And you haven't lost tons of players. You still got Burrow on the first contract, which again, still a high contract for being the first pick, but not $40 million worth.
Right.
Chase, Higgins, you've still got all your guys there. You've still got all your players, so I see them returning to the playoffs at least. Again, they got to shore up some things defensive line wise.
Yeah, because I think their Super Bowl run was kind of
fluky.
You made it, yeah, but if we replayed it again, would they have gotten there? I think no way. Like if you said we're going to play these games again, would they have gotten there? I don't think there's a shot.
No, it'd have been Buffalo.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, yeah, it was just one of those. Everything fell perfectly for them.
Yep.
And I would not be shocked at all if they missed the playoffs this year, to be honest with you. And not because they're bad.
Yeah.
Because, the AFC is going to be tough.
Yeah, they miss out on a tiebreaker or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if McPherson goes from insane as a kicker, where you're hitting 50-yarders, everything is just right. So you go to Chris Bonio or Randy Bullock, and you're missing everything. It's like, okay, that'll be week one. If he misses a couple kicks, you'd be like, I might want to change that bet in Vegas because I don't think it's going to be a repeat. But I think they're building something there, and that's the good. That's another team that's just been a doorstop.
They should have the next 5 years of competitive, in the mix all the time type thing.
Yeah. Which at least, again, I don't want to say their fans are great either, but I'd rather see Cincinnati than, and I hate to say it, Cleveland, because Cleveland they don't know how to manage anything. We'll go AFC East. You've talked a little bit about your Dolphins. Jets.
Yeah, they're on the right track too, honestly. Zach Wilson better than I thought, to be honest with you. Now, he makes dumb plays, which you saw that in college. But he has some tools. He's like a little harder working Drew Lock. So imagine if Drew Lock worked harder. That's kind of what he is. So, I think they're on the right track. Again, they're not in the mix for playoffs or anything. But, yeah, that whole division, I think, is on the right track, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any just push arounds now. No. They'll still beat the Jets most of the time, but not because they're just awful.
So, Brad, we had to give Eric his taste of hockey cards to ward him out for a bit. This is football talk, Eric. This is football talk.
So, and then the Pats will be what they are. They're going to be in that mix to make it, So, yeah, you have 3 potential playoff teams in the AFC East. And you have 3 in the NFC North. I don't think the Steelers are a potential playoff team.
No.
So think about it. We went through 2 divisions and only eliminated 2 teams we don't think can make the playoff.
Well, AFC South, we eliminated 3.
Yeah, now 1 team's only making it from there. It's either Colts or Titans, yeah.
And then we saved the best for last. AFC West. We talked a little bit about Kansas City, their moves they made. I still struggle with. Again, I know Von Miller got stupid money from Buffalo. The Randy Gregory signing. That's one that's gonna either, when we've talked about it, that's either gonna be a fucking grand slam
or a bust.
Yeah.
I disagree. Like, I don't even think it can be a grand slam. What makes people think he's good? I don't get it. The guy's never had more than like 6 sacks. What makes people think he's good? I don't. Measurables? He's not a draft pick anymore. We don't go by measurables anymore. You're not. You're a rotational pass rusher.
I think it's the potential, and that's the kind of like the X factor. And I know that's hard to put things in perspective when you're talking about a defensive pass rusher. I watch a lot of Dallas games because I have no choice living here. And the potential is endless. Honestly. The kid's got talent.
Who are we talking about?
Randy Gregory. The one that do a bunch of drugs and stuff.
Yes, but
been clean.
It's one of those in which you just don't know. I mean, look at when DeMarcus Ware went to Denver. He didn't have like breakout seasons. But when you have somebody on the flip side like a Chubb, and you can't stop them all. So
I think it's one of those in which that's kind of what they're counting on, to where it's the 1-2 punch like they had with Chubb and Von Miller too. But as far as I'm concerned, and this is hard for me to say, Von Miller is a difference maker, but his numbers have dropped.
Oh yeah.
From a productivity perspective. But he is a playmaker. When he needs to step up, usually he's the guy who's going to step up.
Right.
But because he was playing alongside of Aaron Donald, I mean, it's one of those in which, I mean, it's the 1-2 punch. So I think that's kind of what Denver was banking on. I'm surprised they gave him the amount of money that they did, because I don't think he's worth that.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I think he's just a rotational 6-sack-a-year pass rusher. Like, a fine guy to have around. Like, I'm not. Yeah. I was dumbfounded by that, because, like I said, we're treating him like he's a new draft pick.
Yeah.
Talking about potential. You are what you are at this point. I mean, this is year like 6 or 7. People don't realize he's been in the league since 15.
Yeah, but he's
it's like.
I still consider him a kid from that mindset,
Yeah.
and maybe it's wishful thinking. I don't have, I'm not hanging the moon on him by any stretch of the imagination, but I hope whatever they saw in him to bring him in and give him the kind of money that they did, whatever that potential they're looking at or looking for, I hope he at least gives them that. Because to me, then it's at least a step in the right direction in his development. I hate to use that word too, because he's been in the league as long as what he has. But, sometimes a change of atmosphere and a change of leadership and everything else brings out the best in a player though too. So it's one of those in which you don't know. And when you have a guy like Russell Wilson in your locker room, who, I know that there's a person out there that will disagree with me because they can't stand Russell Wilson. They think he's a cancer.
Yeah, I always disagreed with that take. Yeah, that was the one take I never got. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So,
Alan, I'll call him out. I didn't follow Seattle. It's one of those in which, if you really follow your team, there's got to be some things that are out there that most casual fans are not privy to, or they don't do the research and look into it. But when you have somebody who comes in, who, in my opinion, is a good leader, that also can potentially change the dynamic on the opposite side of the football, though, too. So it's one of those in which I'm interested to see how the season plays out. Do I think it's an automatic return to the postseason? No, I don't. Do I think they're playoff caliber? Absolutely.
Yep.
But do I think that this is the answer to Denver's questions and prayers and everything? They're still missing a few pieces to get back to that promised land. Do I hope they go to the playoffs? Absolutely. But that division is tough. Tough.
Yep.
I think Gregory just needed a new setup.
Shut up, Dave.
That's what you said. It's what's made up in the off season. You set up in the off season.
Yeah.
You start in the off season. Get it right, Vinny. Get it right.
You set up for the regular season. You set up for the regular season.
I didn't say that, though. You're putting words in my mouth.
I'm just using the vernacular and the nomenclature, man. It's in the handbook.
I'm going to put you on. I'm getting ready to put you in timeout. Now, the AFC West, you could have 4 teams that could make the postseason in that division.
Mm-hmm.
Las Vegas is good. The Chargers, in my opinion, are only getting better. Herbert's a fucking stud. I love that kid. Kansas City is Kansas City. The only way that 3 out of the 4 teams don't make the postseason is if there's going to be a major injury at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
If any of the 3 quarterbacks get hurt, that's going to royally screw that team's chances.
Yeah, everybody improved except Kansas City, really. Again, when you lose Tyreek, you can't, even with the draft capital you got back, they've been better off trading their capital for a veteran. You make the trade for Orlando Brown. He's been a stud tackle. When you start drafting the guys, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you sort of got in the fantasy football sense. You're like, well, we don't really need to improve anywhere. We'll just draft another running back. He's been solid, but nowhere near a first-round pick. So when you take that sort of cavalier attitude with the draft, I'd be more inclined, again, to start, if you got those picks at the end, and again, don't want to segue yet, because we've forgotten to mention the best team so far. You take those end two picks. Well, you just said they got a fucking stud at quarterback, so I mean
It's still debatable.
not even out of my own mouth. So from a Broncos fan, nonetheless. So I mean, you set me up there, Steve. You set me up.
Remember, Dave, I am a fan of the game. I give credit where credit is due, regardless of where my loyalty lies.
And I'm a fan of the setup of the game, and you just set me up real well. So, if they take those two picks and they move them for a veteran player that they can incorporate, I like that more than their chances of actually drafting someone. They did well with the kid, the linebacker out of Missouri last year in the second. He was really
They
good.
hit on both their set, Bolton and Humphrey. They hit on both of those.
Yeah. So, you had Humphrey, I think the center from Oklahoma. So I like them doing that more so than the first round picks. Again, you get that extra year, which we'll talk about draft time, which is huge. But I think those are going to be in play, at least one of them, which for them is good. Chargers, I like them re-signing Williams. They needed to do it. He did what he was supposed to do in his contract year. He made him pay him. I know they got a tight end, and I don't even remember who it was because I know Jared Cook's out.
Gerald Everett.
So again, there are other options. I didn't like them losing Henry after Henry's year in New England. I didn't really care. I know he's dinged up there with John, who was hurt too, but I was hoping for more. This would have been the Evan Ingram spot where I would have liked to seen them do something with him because I think they could really parlay his talents into actually being on field. If, again, the health part. I mean, if you're watching this tonight, either in live or in a replay, and you chose the drinking game to drink every time we say healthy,
right?
You are
basically everything we say is conducive to them being healthy.
Yeah.
We don't even really have to clarify. This is, of course, if the whole league stayed healthy, this is how we see it, which we knew will not happen. But that's the only thing you can go off of.
Or Austin Hooper. When Cleveland cut him, I'm like, that's a guy you need to. Even two tight end sets. But again, they've got Guyton, they've got Allen, they've got Williams, you got Herbert, you got Everett, who can split the middle of the field. Your defense is solid. You've got a cornerstone tackle, which last year was the guy I wanted. They got him. Then absolutely turned out to be a future all-pro for the So I'm excited. I don't like to get excited for the season because it's happened before. And there's been 8-8 seasons. There's been 6-10. There's 4-12s. I'm like, I remember the days of Craig Wheelahan. I wasn't too fond of those days when Stan Humphries would go out. So it's like I'm the cautiously optimistic. I'm in that boat where I'm like I might do a little more cheering this year because I feel that they're putting their
You're
money.
actually pumped to watch week 1, right?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And if the draft segue, the draft goes to any kind of combination of what I think it could, especially for them. The draft Davis from Georgia if he falls that far. It's not a sexy pick. It's a D tackle.
Oh, you're gonna find out why I hate that guy.
That's all right. I'm just setting you up, Brad. Setting you up for
Yeah, that's why that's hilarious, is because on the like overrated list, he was like at the top of it.
I get it. I get that. For me, for him, they signed a couple D tackles. Even if you're that rotational guy, and there's nobody else at that spot at whatever 17, 18 that they're picking, do it. If there's a receiver there that slipped, that might be the way to go. Tight end class is absolutely low tier. It's like a bottom rung, below a bottom rung of a ladder. So it's like if you want a Sprite and you're left with just like the squirt option. So
Yep.
it I don't see them improving much there. Again, O-line possibly. I've heard the guy from Northern Iowa, Linderman, whatever his name is. I've heard him possibly there, but again, we'll start at 1. Jacksonville. They've got the first pick, shockingly again. They're the Edmonton Oilers of the NFL.
Yep.
Always drafting in that top 5. If Brad Smith was the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars and nobody wanted to come up and make a trade, who would you pick at number 1?
I would probably take Evan Neal, to be honest with you, because especially Doug Peterson likes to throw. Evan Neal does it all. He's probably second best pass protector in this draft. And I would probably go that way over the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, who is like the safe guy.
Yep.
Plays hard every down, does a little bit of everything, but I wouldn't say he's a lead at anything. But he's safe. You're going to get your 8-9 sacks. You're going to get high effort, high motor. He's a safe guy, but I would take Evan Neal and just solidify the line, and you're good to go with your young quarterback and the young weapon ETN that you drafted last year with James Robinson as well. So that's the way I would go if I was running them.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going that way.
No, I think all signs lead to Hutchinson, which
yes, I think that's what they'll end up doing.
And again, I'll say I was wrong last year. Jamar Chase did well. I said they shouldn't draft and they should draft Sewell because you want to protect your investment at quarterback. You when you pick a quarterback number 1, this is something. Hoping everybody's sitting down, including those draft nicks, GMs, everybody out there. You want to protect your investment at that position and make the team better on offense so that he has a chance to succeed. And that you're not constantly in the top 3, the top 5 every year, not because of trades or whatever, but because of futility. And that's why it's a revolving door at GM. You can't make a coaching hire to fucking save your life. Urban Meyer was pretty much one of the worst of all time. The folks out there say, well, Neal's too big. It's like, well, you don't want the 6'3", 305 tackle, 6'8", 370. And he moves. It's not like he's me out there tripping over my feet and struggling. like running out of breath, just running out onto the huddle. He played for basically an NFL team, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and that's I hope they surprise and that's the way they go. I'd love it because that right away it shakes everything up.
Yeah.
You hear this like especially if they keep it mum's the word.
Yeah.
In the when they go up there announce the pick and Evan Neal tackle Alabama. You hear like Mel Kiper, ho 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 ho. You just have that buzz right away. You take Hutchinson, it's gonna be
Right.
Either way, number 2 I think is the spot where the big drama of the draft starts.
Well, to answer his question first before we go on to that.
Okay.
The depth of the class is as good as any of the last 5 or 6. The top end is not as elite as the last couple.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not the year. So your New York teams that have 2 picks in the top 10, this was not the year for that. Like where you're getting the full value for it. But the depth is actually probably better than last year's. And to give you an idea, because of all these COVID rules in college, a lot of these seniors who already graduated got an extra year to play without even having to go to school.
Yeah.
And so to give you an idea, there was only like 650 or so draftable players last year. There is like 1,500 this year, to give you an idea. Now, obviously, most of these guys are going by the way, but to give you an idea of how many more pool of players you have to choose from. So you're going to see a lot more undrafted free agents probably make teams this year, stuff like that. So just to give you an idea, but the top of the draft is not as good as the last few. But the depth is as good as any other, right up there.
And that's where that draft board, those scouts, especially rounds, probably the back half of 3 till the last pick, those draft boards are going to be. Last year, you probably had about 60% were the same type of names, maybe different spots. This year, with 900 more players, you're going to have a lot of varying opinions on that. So that somebody could be that, well, hey, this guy's at Wisconsin Whitewater. Maybe 5 teams had him. Like, hey, this might be a guy to look at. Like the old Bill Schrader, where it's like, well, he's a white guy at Wisconsin. Who cares? Well, that's why you care, because you just don't know. You put the time in, and it pays off a lot, because you can take a lot of these big college guys and they just flame out right away. You take a guy from Purdue, you take a quarterback from Missouri. There's much success there. Blaine Gabbert. So you look at all the intangibles. You're not going to be able to bring everybody in. Not everybody's going to be at the Senior Bowl or at the Combine, because you can't have 1,500 players at the Combine.
Right.
You only have, I think, what is it, 150?
Yeah, I don't even remember the number they have now, but it's a couple hundred at most.
Yeah, it's scant compared to what you could have.
Right.
But going to number 2, lot of rumblings out of Detroit. A lot of different directions they can go.
Yep. So they are on the hook for Jared Goff this year.
Yep.
For sure, you got to pay him regardless, cap space regardless. But next year, if you wanted to move on, it's not a horrible cap hit. You don't owe him any more money. So a quarterback is in play. The issue is in this year's draft is most will tell you there isn't a first-round quarterback in this year's draft. To give you an idea, if this same class was last year's, Malik Willis would be the 6th best one. So put that in perspective, folks. So that's why this isn't a lock that, even if they kind of like Goff or like, this is why it's not a lock that they would take him at all at number 2, because it's honestly just way too high.
Mhm.
So then they'll go, well, who's just the best player on our board? Because we're still Detroit and we can use everything. And I think that's the way they'll lean. Whoever the best player on their board, whether it be probably most likely a pass rusher at that spot. But
How do you feel about Thibodeau from Oregon? Since he's been a sort of a polarizing prospect.
yeah, see, I think what happened with him is everyone preseason had him ranked number 1.
Yep.
So the problem is when you're ranked number 1, if you have any kind of chinks in your armor, then it's all bad publicity from there, right? Because you have nowhere to go but down. And I think that's what's happened with him, where anytime I start hearing the effort, this guy doesn't put forth the effort, and they'll start showing random plays, which you can do to every player out there.
Yep.
I can give you a play where even TJ Watt isn't giving max effort on this one play that I can,
Yeah.
But he's got the explosion, but he has no pass rush moves. It's the same move every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he'll get a sack, and what I like to see players is when they get a sack, what do they do on the next 2 dropbacks? Do they change it up on the offense? Like, he runs the same thing every time. It's the same exact thing every time. So that's the only thing that would, but to me, that's coachable stuff because he's got the explosion already. It's coachable stuff. So I like him, but yeah, at number 2, I would like a more polished individual. But I think that's why you're getting the negativity now, is because he started at the top, didn't quite live up to that, so then you get all negative press from there. I think that's what's going on with that.
It just, for me, it depends if somebody is so enamored with one of the quarterbacks, most likely Willis, because he's got that dual threat. And that's sort of where I think, because you're going to have to, in most teams' minds, jump Carolina at 6 to actually have a chance at whatever quarterback you want.
Right.
So if Detroit takes Sauce Gardner, they take Thibodeau. I'm blanking on I think it's a Georgia guy that's shooting up the boards too. Another one.
Yeah, Trayvon Walker. Yeah.
If they take one of those guys, Houston takes any one of the combination. Jets probably go, if Gardner's there, they take him. They might take a lineman. So it's like at 4 or 5, if I'm either New York team, I'm open for business. Especially if somebody's coming up and they want that quarterback. Because Carolina, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because of the draft order, but that's the team they face the most, or they've got the most to lose because their quarterback depth is, with my PC depth, it's not very deep. A lot of players, but not the depth isn't there. The greatness isn't there. You got Darnold and you got PJ Walker. You don't have a second or a third because of the Darnold trade. The next pick, I think they said they had was like 102 in the 4th.
Right.
So,
yeah, they have no capital to move around or do anything.
No.
Yeah. So it's either you're passing on quarterback another year because you just don't like any of them, which is reasonable.
Yep.
But yeah, it's either you take the quarterback there or they're going in with Sam Darnold.
Yeah. And then you hope you take one of those tackles if whoever's left.
Right.
And you just say, you know what, this is what we'll do. This is the best on their board. We're gonna stay true to the board. And Matt Rule, you may get the axe because you're 6-11. Who knows? We may have something And that's where a lot of these trades we sort of talked about that haven't happened. The cap casualties, again, Steve didn't want to mention the word cancers because again, it's what's his name, Baker. He's not a locker room one, but some of these guys that are like, okay, we're going to push you out. We just don't have room here. We don't have money. You're not going to start over Deshaun Watson. We just gave him like 10 Brinks trucks to come here, on top of all the strippers and masseuses that he's going to be in court with. Him or Garoppolo, one of those guys are on the corner of the sidewalk or the street. You bring them in. I don't know. I'm not a GM. I don't have those. None of us are privy to these conversations. We can only go by with what info we've got, where the cards are at now. And if I'm Carolina, if I'm talking to anybody, I'm open for business too, because Atlanta's there. I'm not dead set on Mariota. Obviously, he didn't warrant a start. He didn't push Carr like a lot of pundits thought that he would last year. I mean, he got in some gadgety, gimmicky plays, but it's like, who cares? I think if I'm them, I'm looking, and I don't know where you'd look, because if they traded with New Orleans to pick up like their first, the pair of their first rounders for New Orleans to move up, if that were the case, I'd hate to have Malik Willis running all over me and be like, we're going to face this guy for at least 5 years now. We could have had him. And we're stuck with like Cam Newton's like fifth child or something. It's like, so it's just going to depend there where you don't have anything to draft in that second and third round. You've got to hit the grand slam in the first. You can't so I don't know. Houston, what do you think they do?
I think they'll just pair another tackle with Laramie Tunsil, because I think they're a believer in Davis Mills. They're riding with him, at least for this year, and see what he does. Yep. But yeah, that's another team that has enough holes. You could take whoever. Because here, we'll kind of lump these in because all these players are going in this range. It's just a matter of what order they go in.
Yep.
But Ike Ekwonu is a big tackle who just bowls you over. He's the old school, late 90s, early 2000 left tackle that you remember. All right?
The big maul.
And then you have Charles Cross, who by far best pass protector in this draft. So I think like the Giants would just jump on that at 5.
Yes.
So it'll be in that range. And then you have either the first wide receiver off the board, which is either going to be Garrett Wilson or Jamison Williams. I think that's going to be one of those two are going to be the first receiver off the board. So Jamison Williams, if he wasn't coming off the ACL, would be probably the pick at number 4 for the Jets, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They might wait and hope they can get him at 10.
Yeah.
And take Sauce Gardner, who is basically a Nnamdi Asomugha clone. I don't know if you remember Nnamdi Asomugha from the Raiders. Now, don't think the Eagles days, but think the Raiders days. That long, linky, you just didn't throw at him. But now he didn't get a lot of interceptions. He's not a ball hawk, but he will just wipe his man out. And that's what this guy does. So then Garrett Wilson will either go to the Jets or the Falcons, probably. I don't think the Falcons are taking a quarterback. I think you notice all these teams did these bridge deals. Mariota to the Falcons, Trubisky to the Steelers, Winston back to the Saints. I think they did that because they aren't in love with these quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like maybe if one falls to us later, okay, maybe we draft him. But I think that's why you saw all these bridge deals from these teams that need quarterbacks, where normally you would not sign anyone and just go in the draft, trade up if you wanted to. But that's why you're not seeing that this year, because none of these quarterbacks are first round quarterbacks. Now they'll go in the first round, 2 or 3 of them, but none of them are. So I think that's why you saw all these bridge deals. But those names are what you're going to see in that first 6, 7 picks. It's just what order they go in. But I'm pretty confident those are the names you're going to see early on.
Seattle at 9?
Yes. So this is where they pick at 40 and 41 in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So do you get the quarterback that's left over? If you deem all these quarterbacks are similar in terms of not playing styles, but in terms of how good they are, do you take one there, or are you punting this year and just saying, you know, we're not doing it this year, and we're going to take the best player, and we'll start our new Legion of Boom with like Derek Stingley Jr., who's the ball hawk of the draft at corner. He's like the opposite of Sauce Gardner. He's the smaller ball hawk type corner compared to the big physical wipe you out corner, you know. So I think they may just go that route and punt on the quarterback until either the second round or just all together for this year, because they're playing the long game now anyways. So it's a 3-year plan now anyway.
I think second round they take somebody. I don't know if it's Howell from North Carolina, Corral if he drops from Miss, somehow Ritter's there from Cincinnati. If those 3 are there, I can't see them having 2 picks and not taking.
Right. Yeah, I think that's where the value, they'd be more than happy to take one, but I don't think they want to give up assets for one.
No.
I think that's where most people are in this draft, where you saw last year, you know, San Francisco trading a 3, Chicago trading up and giving everything. I don't think you're going to see that this year. I think you're going to see teams sit and then decide, are they worth it? But I don't see teams giving up assets for these quarterbacks.
And I know Jerry Jones has said, I think publicly in the last few days, he won't mind trading up. If which again, that's Jerry Jones. He's not going to sit there and say, "No, we're going to stand back or we're going to trade back." That's sort of his MO. He's going to put it out there like we're going to do the smoke screen of we're going to do everything in our power. But remember, the Super Bowl isn't won in the off season. So,
well, Patton's come out and said that they're not opposed to potentially looking at trying to pull back into the first round. It all kind of depends on where cards fall, and that's really what dictates the trades anyways. If there's somebody that a team is just that is their number one, and they feel like because of a need that a team is coming up that they're going to take that player, then they're willing to potentially take that chance and move up in order to get that guy. The only difference is because of what Denver gave up for Russell Wilson, it'll be something that would happen probably later in the first round anyways for them. I don't think they're going to try and move up to close to where they originally would have drafted.
Washington, I think they're 11.
Bob is soaking it all in.
I know
Bob is just soaking it all in, just like Vinny is.
So this is a possible another wide receiver spot, because now Terry McLaurin wants his money. Remember?
Yep.
He's going to want his $20+ million, and they're going to have to give it to him, I would think. But yeah, you can look at another receiver here. They did lose Brandon Scherf.
Yep.
In the offseason, the issue is this draft, interior lineman, and this shows you where the league is going. Interior lineman, There's two guards and a center worth taking in the first 2 rounds. Think about that. In the first 2 rounds of the draft, 2 guards and a center, and then 1 or 2 defensive tackles, maybe. So it shows you where the league's going on the edges now, because it's wide receivers, corners, and tackles. That's where this draft is. So, but yeah, that's where I would see them. They could be a wide receiver home.
Vikings, I know, are 12. And I've pretty much read for about a month. That's going to be, again, according to the draft beatniks over at ESPN, that's the floor for Stingley. Which, again, 100% makes sense because
right.
The Vikings have constantly and consistently tried to get corners in the first, and it's been flame out after flame out after flame out. Gladney, Mike Hughes,
Right.
second Mackenzie Alexander. They just don't do well with drafting guys in the secondary that aren't named Harrison Smith.
Yeah, so if Stingley goes at 9 to the Seattle Seahawks, which might happen,
yeah,
then you're looking at Booth from Clemson, the other corner, that people have them very close together. Again, they're just different. Stingley is your playmaker. He's the guy that can get 10 interceptions in a season.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just because you get 10 picks doesn't mean you were the best corner. Like Trayvon Diggs last year, burnt constantly, but had 10, 11 interceptions. So it's how you want it. But Booth is like the polished, similar to Sauce but not as good, but polished. So that would be where they would go to next, I think, because they've got to get another one. So
yeah. After that, I don't know. I can't even remember the draft order. I want to say.
I'm sure Brad's got it written down.
Yeah, I think it's Houston again.
Okay.
And like I said, Houston is just going to compile whoever the best player sitting there, I think, at every pick. Because they
need everything. That's not.
Right. It's not. So, yeah, they re-signed Brandon Cooks, so you go wide receiver. Because I say wide receiver because there's a lot of good wide receivers.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a wide receiver draft. So, yeah, this also could be the first linebacker taken. Devin Lloyd out of Utah, by far. He's got the goods. He is my, if this guy doesn't make it in the NFL, I'll be shocked guy. All right. To me, a lot of people think Aiden Hutchinson is the safest guy. I think this guy is the safest guy at middle linebacker. You want to blitz him, he's good at that. Want pass pro, have to get some pass, good at that. Can actually shed blocks, which linebackers these days, except with the exception of 2 other guys in this draft, no one sheds blocks anymore. You notice that? They're all fast and can run because you got to chase these shifty wide receivers around. But no one can shed blocks anymore. He can do that. So I think this might be the first slot of the potential middle linebacker who, to me, is very underappreciated in the NFL until you don't have one and you realize, why am I getting beat up the seam all the time? Or why is that guy always late in the hole every time? So that could be the first potential spot for him, I think, is at 13. But one of my favorite players in the draft.
I think they had, McShay and Kuiper had him slipping whatever draft I think they did a draft today. I read through that earlier. Whether the 3-rounder, I think he dropped in like the mid-20s, and I'm like, you need, like you said, you need the defensive field general out there. You need the Sayal. You need the Urlacher, the Ray Lewis. You need somebody that knows what's going on and can back it up. You can't verbalize and, hey, go here. We got whatever, cover two. You need him to back it up by putting his nose in the hole and stuffing the run blitzing the quarterback, whatever the case may be, but he fits the bill. And that's what a lot of these teams are, I won't say that one player away from, but at the same time, you get that player and that helps gel up the defense a lot more. When you have some, I won't say fringe players, but when you have probably some lesser talent you're working with due to cap constraints and trying to piecemeal a roster together.
Right.
14. Who was at 14?
Baltimore.
So I was going to say, I think them, then Philly, New Orleans, and I think Chargers are right same spot, I think, about as last year.
Right. Well, Baltimore, what do they love to take? Usually offensive linemen or some sort of defensive player, right? Yep. It's either quick wide receiver, offensive lineman, big defensive player. That's what so it's going to be one or the other because that's what they always do. So, you were talking about Jordan Davis earlier. That was what we were going to talk about. Because this guy is the 6'8" monster who runs like 4.740 or something. So this physical freak. So you think this guy? I've heard him compared to Vita Vea from the Bucks. If he was Vita Vea from the Bucks, I would take him in the top 5, to be honest with you. But he is not Vita Vea from the Bucks. The guy gets no pass rush. And believe it or not, even at his 6'8", 370-pound frame, still will get pushed around occasionally by college guards who aren't even top level in this draft. So I am not a Jordan Day. I don't get it. Now he's a decent run stopper.
Mm-hmm.
But in the first round in a league that we're in, you're going to draft a run stopping, can't play on third down defensive tackle. Shit. Yeah, if you have the luxury to do that, that's nice. But where Vita Vea, he causes constant havoc in the backfield. Jordan Davis is not in the backfield. All right. He's think Ted Washington of the old days. I don't know if you guys remember that guy. Perfect job of what he did. But yeah, he's not going to be in the backfield wreaking havoc. So
2-down player.
Yeah, I see him all the time. I've even seen him linked to Baltimore, which is why I brought that up. And as you said with the Chargers a few picks later. And it's not that these teams can't use a guy like that. It's not that he's a scrub, but not in round 1, and he is going in round 1, and I'm just going to lose my mind when it happens.
I'm just we have a gooey situation going on in the chat between Bob and Cher.
So
I think the two need to get a room.
You got something to say, Bob?
I mean, Chair's at home, with my family right now, so I'm kind of at his mercy. Has there been any Kenny Pickett talk? Did I miss any of that?
No, we haven't. Yeah, I haven't really gotten into the quarterback. So here's the deal. I'll give a synopsis of what type of quarterback you're getting. Malik Willis, most athletic, biggest arm, have no idea where the ball is. Okay? He can't complete the simple 6-yard pass, but then will roll out to his left and throw a 70-yard bomb for a touchdown. And you're like, is this the same guy? And all his passes are the exact same thing. It's all on a line. So there's no touch. Very developmental. But the reason why you would draft him is you can do kind of what the Ravens did with Lamar. We're going to run you a lot. You'll complete some deep passes. We can still win with you maybe with your skill set, right? Kenny Pickett is you want to play the boring West Coast style offense. He can complete your 10-yard passes, be functional, be your Andy Dalton. That's the way I look at him. He can do that. He's not any better than that. That, to me, is his ceiling is Andy Dalton. So, again, round 1, drafting Andy Dalton.
He at least has wheels. Andy Dalton really didn't have wheels.
Yeah, well, Dalton would take off, though.
Yeah, but from that perspective, that there is no comparison as far as wheels. Andy Dalton, I could have probably freaking outran Andy Dalton. Okay, in my prime.
I don't think once he gets to the NFL, his wheels aren't going to be like a big asset.
Well,
I don't think.
I don't think
he's got those kind of wheels for it to be a big asset.
He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Mahomes.
No, right.
He's not Josh Allen. He's a step down from those guys, but it's enough to where he can get himself out of jams in the event that he needs to, and could potentially run for a first down. But he's not going to be running for 30 and 40-yard runs. The caliber in the NFL from the defensive side of the ball is nothing compared to the college level. So I agree with that 100%. And I like Kenny Pickett.
So he's somewhere in between like Dan Marino's scrambling ability and Michael Vick's.
That's a pretty big gap there, Dave.
That's what she said.
You would hope she didn't say that. I mean, I like Pickett. You know, before Denver went and got Russell Wilson, I honestly was hoping that they would have gotten Pickett. We lost your audio, Brad. Brad can't hear us. Because he's just talking away. Because I was like, I know he has something to say. Say something, Brad.
All right, can you hear me now?
Now you're good.
Okay.
Because you couldn't hear us either, because I was like, I even said, it was like, we think we lost your audio.
Okay.
So repeat what you were saying, because none of us heard it.
Yeah, so I was saying Kenny Pickett ready to play. That's why, like, for the casual fan who watches, he'd probably be the guy you want. Because you're like, okay, this guy could play week 1 and be functional. So I think that's why he'd be the favorite for most fans, I would think, that actually watch the games because, hey, you're the most ready to play. So he would be most favorable. Matt Corral out of Ole Miss throws the best, most accurate deep ball. But his problem is he doesn't have the arm he thinks he has. So he puts it in a lot of oh, man. In the NFL, it wouldn't surprise me if he led the league in picks if he started. Okay, you know what I mean? Because he would have a big learning curve, and all these guys do.
Or dislocated shoulders.
Yeah. And Sam Howell out of North Carolina, his stock dropped because everyone from his team left from the year before. He had 2 great running backs, Javonte Williams, who Steve knows, Michael Carter, who went to the Jets, who was awesome, and he had 2 receivers leave. So his production dipped. Not that he got any worse. It's just the team around him started to suck. But he's probably my personal favorite is Sam Howell out of North Carolina. Best third down efficiency out of any quarterback in college. To me, I look at third down and red zone. To me, that separates the top guys in the NFL from the rest. Look at what they do on third down. Look what they do in the red zone. Are you settling for field goals? Getting touchdowns. You know, how are you on 3rd and 7? Yeah, right.
And that's a fair assessment because, you know, a lot of teams lose when they can't put it in the end zone. Right. Getting to the red zone on multiple occasions, but having to settle for field goals, and that becomes the difference in a game.
But now his problem is quick to leak out of the pocket when he doesn't need to. He's one of those guys that, why are you leaving the pocket? You didn't need to, you know. So something he's got to work on.
Overanalyzes what's going on around him.
Right. And then he might end up making a great play, but you're like, you just made it more difficult on yourself, dude. Like, you had the play on your 3rd step and you should have thrown it and didn't. So that's his problem. Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, who has been the high riser, it seems, from everyone. Like, he's one of those that's gotten better every single year, which is what you want to see. Similar to Kenny Pickett, got better every year. Best pocket presence, I would say, of all the draft class. But again, another guy where throw it on a rope for 20 yards, the 6-yard crossing route at his feet. And you're like, what's going on? Just way too many inconsistencies in that. But all these guys are athletic enough. All of them can move. That's not an issue. The only next quarter, and Desmond Ridder honestly reminds me of Ryan Tannehill. Every time I turn in there, I was like, I've seen this guy before, and it hit me. I'm like, I know this guy really well. And that's who it reminded me of when I watched him as Ryan Tannehill. And then the last one that might get drafted in the first couple rounds is Carson Strong out of Nevada. He is the only guy. He is your traditional, I will not move from this pocket, but I'm big. I think Phillip Rivers is what a lot of people have compared him to. Obviously not quite that advanced yet. But, yeah, he's your traditional pocket passer, will not move a lick. But probably one of the best overall throwers in the draft.
So before we close off with the last little bit of the first round, I wanted to circle back to this question. Because you have a tendency to do this every year, Brad. So we want to make sure we stick with tradition. The question's highlighted, and I'll let you have a chance to read it and see if anything comes to mind at the moment.
I was actually thinking this, and I don't have a guy that like is supposed to be, I would say, top 15 and not picked in the first round. I would consider that at the drop is the guy who projected top 15. I can't think of anyone, truthfully, that is going to be just the guy who's sitting there forever that was supposed to be in the top 15 and is out of the first round. I honestly can't think of one. Now, there should be one in Jordan Davis, but I can't think of one that's actually going to do it.
So you think all those that potentially get invited to the draft and sitting back in the back will probably go roughly where they're expected to go?
Right, because they invited a few guys that intentionally will go in the second round. They do that on purpose,
Of course.
So, yeah, I don't see anyone sitting there for 20 plus picks before they were supposed to be selected. I don't see that this year. So barring some gas mask situation coming up, I don't really see a guy that's going to be so polarizing where people are just going to be like, what's going to be the one team that's willing to take a chance on him that should go? I don't see that this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that question and I was like, I don't want to lose track of that one because you gotta look at things from all aspects. So where did we end up since we went from wherever it was to talking about quarterbacks because that was brought up? Where did we stop at?
New Orleans, I think.
Philly's at 15.
Philly, yeah. Philly's right before them, yeah. So let's see. What does Philly need? They got Kuhn. Oh, they need linebacker for sure.
Yeah.
So the problem is it too early to take Nakobe Dean, who is the other main linebacker in this draft? He is your kind of Zach Thomas type player, undersized, but is always around the football. Like he knows what you're doing. He's the leader. But he's undersized, so will that make him fall a little bit? But this would be perfect for Philly if they took a Nakobe Dean here because they need a linebacker badly.
Then New Orleans.
Now, see, this is intriguing because why did they trade up? Because you remember they traded with the Eagles to get 16 and 19. So this is obviously for a specific purpose, and I can't figure out what it is, to be honest with you. So I don't know if anyone else has any opinions on that. Is it one of the quarterbacks we like is going to be there, they figure, and they're going to take one, or is it a specific position like tackle or corner or wide receiver that they want?
I think it's wide receiver. I just the guy from Ohio State. If Drake London somehow slips,
you know who Drake London is? Mike Williams. Every time I watch him, I'm like, oh, that's Mike Williams.
not the Chargers one, the Lions one.
No, I'm actually thinking more of the Chargers one. I was giving them a little more respect than the Lions one.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if you go to the Lions one, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking more of the Chargers one. Folks out there.
I like him. I've always liked the receivers with size, minus Dennis Northcutt. It just befuddles me where you can be 6'4", 218, and pretty much not do anything on the field. Where it's like you're 6'8" inches taller than your competitor. That's just the sight test alone. You win. But then again, intangibles, work ethic, etc. But do they like? If London's there, is it O'Valley? Oval from Ohio State.
Olave.
And then Burks from Arkansas. Might be a little too early for him, but still.
Yeah,
You're
see, that's
probably-
where Sean Payton was still there. I could totally see Burks going there.
Yep.
Because he would know how to use him. Because he is not your traditional. You're going to use on end arounds and creative ways to get the ball, not just straight routes. So, yeah, with a new coaching staff, I don't know if they would go that route. But with Sean Payton there, he would be perfect.
Yeah.
If he was still there.
So, yeah, I think it's a receiver because you can't bank on Michael Thomas.
Right.
And Traquan Smith, you had the full year. You re-signed him, but guess what? He didn't do anything to.
Just a
You're not like, man, okay, we got a good one here. It's like, no, we got a third receiver at best. So I see them doing that. Chargers, again, D tackle would be nice. Always a corner. Again, in that division, you're going to need a corner. Said too early, way too early for any even thought of a tight end. It's not a.
No, yeah.
Very
There's only
weak class.
one that might go in the first two rounds.
Yeah.
Might.
It's not like years past where you might have somebody sneak in or a top 10 pick, and then
Right.
the second round is just littered with 4 or 5 of them. It's a lean class, or they can beef up the old line. If they take the Linderbaum or Linderman from Northern Iowa, do they take another receiver just to give Herbert more weapons? I don't know. It just, I've seen so many possibilities with them mocked out, and it's just like there's not a specific one every time.
Right.
It's seemingly they're going to be the Houston best player available for, and sort of tinkering on the side of position of need or just to beef up.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think you could see the other tackle going here. Possibly. They could do that again. That would probably be Trevor Penning, probably Northern Iowa. He's not my personal favorite, but that's what most people have as kind of the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you could go another corner like Trent McDuffie if he's there from Washington. Washington pumps out corners, NFL corners. That is the one thing they have done the last 8 to 10 years. They pump out secondary, and they have 2 guys this year that could go in round 1. So that could be another possibility.
18, I know 20's Pittsburgh, 19's New Orleans, 18
Well, Philly, that could be another corner spot as well. So, and then I told them they need a linebacker. There isn't an interior lineman worth taking. And so you could look at another pass rusher if you wanted. But trying to think who's the next best pass rusher there that would be there.
And I don't remember. I don't think it's it's a Jenkins. It's like the second Jeremiah.
Yeah, there's like Jermaine Johnson, but he'll probably go in the top 10 to probably the Giants with their second pick.
Yep.
Probably. So you have the guy from Purdue who's like the bull rush specialist, Karlafidis or whatever his name is. You know, most of these guys are all quickness, win on spin moves, or bend around you. He is the old-fashioned bull rusher strength guy, but he gets in the backfield consistently, so that could be a possibility for the Eagles as well. So yeah, we'll let the Pittsburgh guys see who they want.
Offensive lineman to replace Villanueva.
Okay.
Never hurts to get somebody else for the secondary. Defensive tackle would be nice.
And Bob says D line.
Yep. So a D lineman, somebody replace Villanueva. It never hurts. Strengthen up the secondary. A middle linebacker to replace Devin. No, wait. Was Devin Bush middle linebacker?
Yeah. Oh, you did sign Miles Jack in the offseason.
Yeah. So that kind of helps there. And then, according to I was just looking at the mock drafts, they're interested in that Cincinnati quarterback.
The second one?
Oh, Ritter. Okay.
Yeah, it has mock draft Desmond Ritter, Cincinnati, round 2, pick 52, Travis Jones, defensive tackle, UConn. So those are their first. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to rebuild. I don't know if we're going to catch lightning. Everybody thought Mason Rudolph was going to be bigger. I don't think he's ever going to pan out for Pittsburgh. We lost what's his name in that tragic accident a week ago, so that's no longer an option. We have Trubisky, so I don't know. We're solid at running back with Najee. Yeah, I would say somebody to protect the quarterback. Defensive lineman never hurts. We like to draft linebackers in the later rounds, so we might hit Chain Lightning in the late rounds for that. And then sure up the secondary. Mika Fitzpatrick's that was one of the best additions to our team in years. That kid can play. And you got Watt and a couple guys. I would have liked to see what would have happened if Shazier didn't get hurt. What would that look like right now with under his leadership with Watt? It would be kind of.
Am I still feedback?
Bob will be back.
Yeah. That's about that. It was funny. I was watching something today. They were interviewing James Harrison, and they said, 2 quick questions to end this. They're like, how was your experience at the Combine? And he's like, dude doesn't know me, does he? And he's like, I never went to the Combine. And he's like, well, what about the draft? He's like, dude, I wasn't drafted. He's like, all right, dude, my dude, thank you. And he just got up and left. I thought that was poetic since, yeah, he's we haven't had somebody of his ilk since for a while. Now TJ's there, so it's making a difference. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, those are where I think where I would put some people. Getting a quarterback, being Benless for the first time in what, almost 20 years. It's weird. So we'll see how it rolls.
Bob.
As much as I'd like the Pickett story, I don't think that's the best move. The more I hear, D-line just seems to be the way to go, especially since, I mean, Cam Hayward's the only guy we really got that we can depend on. I don't know what's going to happen with Stephon Tuitt. Like that, I mean, it's tragic what happened to his brother, but like losing him last year, I really think that has a big. I mean, you see the difference in Devin Bush not having a D line to kind of keep those guys off the linebackers. Miles Jack, I don't know much about him. I'm excited to see what he can do. The Schobert experiment didn't really work out so well. So Steelers have a knack for finding receivers in late rounds as well. I just feel like if a quarterback falls to them at 20, they're gonna take one. And I'm okay with riding the Trubisky train, as it were, just as a stopgap. Next year's class will be better for quarterbacks. I'm not a real big draft expert. I don't watch college football, so like I don't really know what's out there. Steelers seem to do fairly well. I kind of, to a fault, just trust what they do sometimes.
Right.
So I'll see who they pick and then make an assessment on the players they get. But D-line seems to be the way to go. An offensive line as well. I mean, we need some beef in there for sure. Yeah, I don't have any trust in Mason Rudolph. Now, has he been given a fair shot? Sometimes, yeah. There's still a sect of the fandom that wants, believes in him. He's a good kid. He really is. I don't think. I mean, from the day they drafted him, like him and I don't know what it was. Like Ben just. It's like I don't know. He just took offense to it. So he was like cold shoulder to him the whole time and never really sort of groomed him. Not that it's his job to do that. As he pointed out, it's the coach's job. But, yeah, I don't know. He's not the answer, though. I've kind of come around to that. So, and I don't think Trubisky's the answer either. But I'm willing to at least give it a shot. Having said that, this could be the first losing year we've had under Tomlin, so I'm prepared. I'm prepared for all of that.
Like I said, if you want a corner and wide receiver, this is the draft for you, though. There's both in the first two rounds, you're going to get a guy that plays right away. So it's like
there's still a sect that is holding out hope that we're going to get the honey badger.
No, yeah.
That'll be interesting to see where he goes when that wherever he goes when that happens. Do you see him going somewhere, Brad, or is he going to stay put?
I don't know because Kansas City moved on because they paid another safety. They paid a
Yeah.
Reed from the Texans, so they're done with him. There was rumor that he'd come to Miami because we freed up even more. We have $20 million in cap space, and we have no draft picks to have to sign. So there was rumor he was coming to Miami to play alongside Javon Holland, which would be like almost overkill because we don't actually like need that position. But so I don't know where he's going to end up. I think he may be one of those close to training camp signs with someone who realizes, crap, we have a big hole here that we thought maybe we wouldn't have. Yeah, I'm not sure where he's actually going to be headed.
Is he the last big name out there?
That still has a couple years on the tires, probably, yes. Like, you still have, like, Jarvis Landry at wide receiver.
Clowney's still out there.
Right. So you still have good players out there. But in terms of, like, hey, I've got a couple, maybe even prime years left out of him, he's probably the one. I'd say he's got 2 great years with him.
Isn't Melvin Ingram still out there?
Yes. He actually did a visit with the Dolphins this week. And he's, again, part-time pass rusher. He's fine. He's not a full-time player anymore. But, yeah, so there's still plenty of good free agents out there. But I think you're going to see, like typical, after the draft, they see what their rosters look like. No, we didn't get our safety we wanted, or we didn't get our wide receiver. But I think he might wait because the safety class kind of is weak this year. Outside of the guy from Notre Dame who will go in the top 15, there won't be another safety in round 1. So he might just wait it out and end up getting more money by waiting, because the team's desperate. But
yeah,
either that or wait till, like you said, camp starts and then somebody gets hurt, or
right.
trying to finagle some sort of deal then. But yeah, it's Will Fuller. If he can ever stay healthy, that'd be another guy.
That guy pissed me off.
I like him to be like, if he just stayed healthy, just 1 year.
Yep.
I could move a bunch of cards with him. Like I cool NT cards, get rid of them. But thank God I'm #not into him for that much. 21 is what? New England, I think. They're coming up.
Yep. So they would be one of the many corners. Let's see. My favorite's probably the guy from Florida, Elam from Florida. He's probably my favorite. There's Auburn, McCready from Auburn. He's my other favorite.
Okay.
They would be perfect fits to replace J.C. Jackson for them.
Yeah, we lost him to my Chargers. That was another one of their pickups.
And honestly, look at what Denzel Ward just got. J.C. Jackson's better than he is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Usually when a free agent changes teams, you did not get any kind of deal. You might have actually got a deal there.
Yeah.
Which
I'm happy with that, because they weren't terrible at corner, but in the same vein, that was a spot in that defense. You lose Hayward, where you think, he's 30-ish, whatever, 31. He's done, but that was a big loss for them, bigger than I think they envisioned. So at 22, who do we got?
I think it's Green Bay's first one. So you remember they lost Lindsey to your Chargers the year before.
Yep.
So this could be the only center that would go in round 1 from Iowa, Tyrell Lindenbaum. It could be him. It could be finally a wide receiver, but they just won't take a wide receiver in round 1. So
I've seen a couple where on either this or whatever 29 they're at, it's either the Penn State, one of the Penn State guys, I think, or it's a guy from North Dakota State. I think Scott.
Yeah. Jahan Dotson is the Penn State one. He is dynamic after the catch. Christian Watson is the North Dakota State who has all the measurables but raw. So you're really projecting with him for all pro potential. Jahan Dotson, you put him with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, I think that would be perfect, to be honest with you. But he's not an X receiver like Adams was. So you're not replacing Adams when you sign him. You're just adding more of a slot guy. So it would not be an Adams replacement. Yeah. And they just signed Sammy Watkins, if you guys didn't see, too. That'll be nice for 6 weeks that he's healthy.
I was going to say, and for those 6 weeks, he'll catch like 3 balls for 18 yards and probably have a fumble at the goal line. Because, I mean, I don't know how he's still in the league.
He didn't do horrendous in Kansas City. That's why.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why. He had decent seasons and actually helped them win games. But that's the only reason why.
I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. That he just, as it's Brad's saying when he comes to the show, he doesn't move the needle. He was overrated coming out of Clemson. Did decent that first year in Buffalo, and then just sort of ever since then hasn't really. You want to talk about folks that don't live up to their hype, their ceiling. It's him again. The Baltimore, I get that offense wasn't predicated around having a polished passer to throw him the ball.
Right.
But in Kansas City, you really couldn't carve out a super solid niche. I mean, they're bringing in Josh Gordon at the end of last year. So, I mean, again, them signing Watkins, I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers is even looking at that in the transaction section of the newspaper. That gets them wound up, and I can't wait for minicamp and throw to Sammy Watkins. That's going to be a dream come true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they pretty much replaced Valdez-Scantling. I mean, that's pretty much all they did with that pickup. The same type of caliber player.
Yeah, I'm guessing, or I'm hoping that for Aaron Rodgers' sake, he can actually catch the ball more frequently than Mr. Scantling did. Who's up 23rd?
Arizona. Let's see, Arizona. I would have. There could be a pass rusher here. A lot of the guy climbing up the boards is from Minnesota, Boye Mafe or whatever his name is. Again, you're counting on potential overproduction. It's one of those guys. Do you want the guy who got 12 sacks in college, or do you want the guy with the measurables that gets 7 sacks? That's where you got to decide. But there's also another Penn State one, like Ibikiti or whatever. I think that would fit too. But it's all about, are they measurable people, or are they? I always lean towards the football people over the measurable people. As long as your measurables aren't horrible, I'll take the football guy who produces over the.
Well, Mike Mamula was a measurable guy.
All right.
How'd he turn out?
Now, there are certain levels you need to be at. Otherwise, you are a complete outlier. If you aren't, you can't be a wide receiver and run a 4.9, Yeah, okay. But you don't have to run a 4.3 either.
No.
They're this guy, Cooper Kupp, when he ran a 4.68 or something, and everyone freaked out. It's fast enough. Okay. Obviously. But yeah, there is certain measurables you've at least got to reach the minimum to, but yeah, you don't need to be a workout warrior to be awesome.
No, it's not like Cooper Cup's going to be running down the field after a catch with like the big old dump truck tire like around his waist, like tied up and like behind him. Like, come on, or the parachute, or the with the wind resistance or whatever. But yeah, they've got to replace Chandler Jones because didn't he go to Vegas?
Right? Yeah, he went to the Raiders. So yep.
So that's a lot of productivity.
That's why I think that's just a spot where even if it's a little bit of a reach, I think they're just going to take their favorite pass rusher there.
Yeah, it makes too much sense for them not to go in that direction. 25.
Dallas.
Yeah, this is
And
some
Dallas,
Cowboys right here.
is 24.
Yeah. Let's see, Cowboys. What can they do? They've actually not been dumb lately, though. In their draft, they've been pretty good. Ever since Stephen Jones has taken over, they've been pretty good, really. But
Did they go best available or did they go receiver?
yeah, I think a receiver for sure could be here. But the thing that gets overlooked with him, they need help on that offensive line's not what it used to be, man.
No.
They got to get it back. Otherwise, Zeke's going to be worthless, So this could be another offensive lineman spot for sure.
There's your last ones. I went ahead and posted them in the chat because we're coming up on 3 hours. So I figured I'd go ahead and throw them out there so, Brad, you can see them.
Yeah, so basically you got, let's see, like Chiefs with 2 picks. I would think one of them will be a wide receiver and one of them will be a quick twitch, explosive. They may take the risk on the Christian Watson, who's raw, but has those quick measurables and hope they hit the home run there. That's a team that can afford to do it because know the quarterback won't hold him back. The system won't hold him back. That'll just be him saying, whether or not he's good enough,
Yeah.
So I think that's a perfect spot for him. And their other pick, they can't ever seem to depend on Frank Clark, so this could be the other pass rusher Arizona doesn't take. Because, it just seems like every time they need that guy, he's never there, or, and I think after this season, they can maybe move on from him. So that could be another possibility. And then let's see, they need a corner too. So corner is the other big possibility because they let Ward go to the 49ers, which surprised me. I didn't get that because they had the money to re-sign him at $10 million a year. And they play that man-to-man system, blitz you, where the guys are on islands.
Yep.
Not everyone can play like that. And you had a guy that could play like that at $10 million a year, and they let him go to San Francisco. So that was like the head scratcher to me. But yeah, so corner for sure could be the other pick. So you could see a corner wide receiver combo with their picks.
I gotta imagine Buffalo's got to be the same after Levi Wallace goes.
Yeah, because they already had depth issues in the secondary. Now their starters were fine, but depth-wise. So like I said, if you need a corner or wide receiver, this is the draft for you. It's really just pick who's your favorite, what type of guy do you want? Do you want bigger, stronger? Do you want the fast, quick, twitchy type guy? So
Titans. Go ahead, Vinny.
I was gonna say, how's the draft for miracles for Detroit? I've tried. God, I've tried to become a Lions fan in the 12 years I've lived here, and I just can't do it. I like the tight end that we picked up, Hawkinson. I just can't. And then when Pittsburgh got Ebron, I'm like, no, you don't want Ebron. I'm like, the dude is just, they hate him here. Hate him. A top 50 list came out of the most hated sports people in Detroit. Number 1 was Claude Lemieux, and like 38 was Ebron, because he dropped so many critical passes. I'm like, I just don't know what they need other than a miracle. I just.
Oh, they're going to the Super Bowl this year.
Thank
And
you.
so for teams that need a running back, I don't think one goes in round 1, but the consensus to me, not even close, is Brees Hall.
Yep.
He is Matt Forte. That's who he is. That was like, some guys you watch and you're like, that's who that is. And to me, he is Matt Forte clone. So out of Iowa State, Brees Hall will be the first running back taken. Probably though round 2, but this is usually where you see the first one go. Either someone trades up so they get that extra year, where you get the 5 years, you franchise them for a 6, and you let them walk after you've used them up. Basically, what the Steelers did with Le'Veon Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you did. Use them up, send them on their way. So you could see someone trading up that back half and just doing that.
And if it's not Hall, Walker from
right. Those are the consensus
top 2.
I would say top 2.
And they're both beasts. I mean, those are 2 guys I've followed for more so Hall, because again, we put huge numbers up at Iowa State. I'm like, okay, let's take a peek down there, because Iowa State's usually one of those teams that's either 3-8 or in the top 10 for the first 2 months, and then
right,
23 at the end of the year. But you're like, what the hell are they doing? Because they're usually either getting low blowed, or they're nowhere in a bowl contention. It's usually either a quarterback, but wide receiver with Lazard a few years ago, and he put up just massive numbers down there, or Brees Hall is just an absolute, like a super Tecmo Bowl type running back with 30 carries.
Yeah, he does it all.
Then you have like 6 catches for like 60, 70 yards, and then 2-3 touchdowns. So it's like, I'll take notice.
Steelers are traditional between the tackle. Yep. So he would be another one that'll go late round 2, probably.
Yeah. Tampa Bay, got to be O-line. Maybe interior D-line.
Yeah, like I said, the problem is with the interior. These are guys I think you're just going to see go later, because they're just, at least to me, is just not a draft for interior defensive linemen or interior offensive linemen. You'll have a guard from Boston College, Zion Johnson, that maybe goes in the back half, and the guy from Texas A&M that will go in the back half at guard, beginning a second, and that's all there is, man. So if you need a guard or center in this year's draft, there's literally just a couple, But it's just the way the game's going now. It's all about speed and edges, so that's where all the players are at.
Yeah, this isn't going to be one of those sexy drafts of 6 quarterbacks, a couple 3 running backs. You'll get your receivers, but there's not a Randy Moss. There's not Julio Jones. There's not the Odell Beckham. The guys that are like, man, how are these guys even slipping out of the top 10? It's the Larry Fitzgeralds. It's like, no, everybody's got a flaw.
Right.
I mean, most people do, but these guys are not like when you hear can't miss, surefire. Right. This is a 15-year starter in the NFL. Everybody's got something that somebody out there of the draft next to the GM's team personnel. I don't know. I like him, but I wish this was better. I really like that, but this doesn't jive with me that well. His pocket presence is great for a quarterback, but his accuracy isn't the greatest. It's like, okay, then that's what a lot of fans, I don't know if they're going to realize that or do realize it. It's not those drafts where like everybody's just jazzed up for sexy picks, and it's a lot of the big boys, which Either that or the stalwarts on the outside that get the sacks, get the picks. Again, some receivers, but they're not like I said, the surefire guys that people.
Yeah. Like I literally have a list of 12 wide receivers, and the difference I have between them is small.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so somebody is going to get, you know, an all-pro wide receiver in round 2 in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's, you know, pick your flavor, and this guy happened to pop because they are pretty close. So, oh, I've got Ty's favorite part. His favorite part is sleepers. I gave him a good one last year in Elijah Mitchell, so he was happy about that. So this year I've got 2 running backs on it. We've got a South Dakota State running back. I like the random schools like that. Pierre Strong Jr. He even has the name of a running back. Averaged 7 yards a carry. And this wasn't a guy who had like 50 carries. 7 yards a carry. Explosive, can take it any distance. And like he ends up in like a wide zone scheme, you know, 49. Teams like that, I think he could pop. The other running back from Arizona State, Rashad White, best receiving back in this draft. So those guys obviously carry a premium. He could be your James White, you know, that the Patriots have used for years. So don't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots ended up drafting him or something. But so Rashad White from Arizona State and Pierre Strong Jr. from South Dakota State are the running backs to watch, like that you're going to get picked late, and don't be surprised if they do something. Wide receiver, where this is where the Steelers always hit on their mid-late round wide receivers. Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama. Explosive, all the tools. I don't know why he wasn't playing at a big school. I didn't read his background to see if he was like a transfer, like got in trouble. Because this guy, like NFL talent. And Bo Melton from Rutgers. That's the last Rutgers wide receiver that you talk about being in the NFL. It's been a while. So those are the 2 there. And then the one quarterback I had, which was hard to find because like I said, this quarterback class was not sexy. But he's a 6'7", 250-pound quarterback from Southern Louisiana named Cole Kelly. Guy, rocket of an arm. His only problem is I look at one guy and then I run. But if he throws it to the one guy, it's awesome. Like, it looks great. But his progression of reading the field, there's a reason, you know, he'd be a 6th, 7th round pick. But the guy's, something to work with. That's what you look for in the deep draft. And the last one, linebacker, he used to be a quarterback. Normally, most former quarterbacks are receivers or running backs, or he changed to linebacker. So that gives you an idea of this guy's mentality. Troy Anderson from Montana State, who I think will end up going at like the end of round 2, beginning of round 3. And the guy's, he's one of the quickest dudes in the draft and surprisingly instinctual, which usually, if it's not your natural position growing up, you usually struggle with that part. But he always just seems to be at the ball and where he needs to be. So those are your sleepers.
As a quarterback, though, you kind of see things different, though, too. So puts things in a different perspective on the defensive side of the ball.
So those are my draft sleepers, I guess. Hopefully, we'll see if one of them pops. That's my goal, is to get one every year, you know.
So there you go.
Not 2. One was going to be a 4th rounder. Towards ACL. Linebacker, edge rusher from Michigan. Ojabo.
Ojabo, yeah. He would have been an end of round 1 selection, which I don't get, because it's like, assuming the surgery goes well, you're obviously going to have tests with that. Let's say he misses half a year. He's going to play football for 10 years, let's say.
Yeah.
Why do you care if he misses half a year? I don't get, why would that drop him? Same thing with Jamison Williams, is the wide receiver. If you love him, he's coming off an ACL, assuming it's not like his third one or something,
Mhm.
Okay, he misses half a year. Who cares? You're drafting him for the long term anyway. Like, I don't get some of these teams that like have him drop like an entire round or two. If you loved him before and the surgery, you'll get confirmation that it went well by then.
Yeah.
I don't get the droppage with that. And like I said, unless it's their third or fourth one of the same injury or something.
And then the Western Kentucky quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I watched a little bit on him, but honestly, I didn't see enough of him to
Okay.
make it. Yeah, I couldn't find enough stuff on him to make a proper evaluation of him, honestly.
I've always been a big fan of the stupid numbers. I love Timmy Chang. I loved Colt Brennan.
Yeah.
I love Tim Rattay. I mean, any of that, Graham Harrell, Sonny Cumby, any of those stupid, you're throwing over 5,000 yards. I'm gravitating to you. I don't care if you're 5'3", 170. I'm like, yeah, I'm following you. You ain't going to be in the pros, but I want to see what's going on here. Because you're throwing 5,000, 6,000 yards. That's like,
Yeah,
what
these small
does
school
it-
guys, sometimes it's just hard to find stuff on them, man. So
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want to watch a highlight reel.
No,
It's
no.
called a highlight reel for a reason, because it's
Yeah, you're not going to show the whole.
it's
Oh, he's
supposed to
doing
make
this
them look good. So yeah, I have a few buddies of mine who hook me up with some stuff, but
Yeah,
that's how I have to get a lot of that, because you can't just find it searching YouTube. Go search these, the Southern Louisiana quarterback and find a bunch of stuff.
Then again, ESPN Plus, we can only watch that so much on a Saturday, and hope that Conference USA and now I don't know if Western Kentucky jumped to the Sun Belt, but it's like you can only have so many of those games on. I watched a fair share, but it wasn't anything like, oh my God, I saw somebody that I really like. It's like,
Yeah, that's the biggest mistake I think these experts make, is they almost watch too much of it during the year. They get preconceived notions when they go back to watch the tape. They just try to confirm whatever opinion they had before.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, honestly, most of the stuff I watch is after the season ends. Basically, once bowl season starts, that's when I start I don't watch them during the year. I watch it afterwards. So I don't have preconceived notions of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this guy can't throw to his left, so I'm going to look for every play where he doesn't throw to his left to confirm my initial, and that's what a lot of these guys do. And to me, that's where they miss a lot, is they just look for their one game they watched where he didn't do X, and they look for each time he didn't do that the one time in the game, and they'll put that as the highlight.
I'd rather watch game footage and just sit there and be like, then after the fact, like, okay, guy looks like he can at least play.
Right. Yeah.
We've got that.
Right.
There might be A, B, and C that he needs to work on, but E and a little bit of F, he seems to be solid enough. So, yeah, once you get in that zone of, well, he can't do this, that's all you're looking for. You zone in on that. It's like, well, how about some of the better stuff he did? Because again, they didn't score 62 points a game or 58 points a game or go 10-2 by him being horseshit. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
You don't luck into 10 wins, or you don't luck into 6,000 passing yards or 2,000 rushing yards or 20 sacks by just stumbling into people. And so you got to do something right. And I wish there's more, not highlight reels, like you said. I'd rather give me 10 minutes from a game.
Right.
I want to see your pocket presence where you don't feel that blindside pressure. Give me that in the first quarter. What did he do in the third when that happened again? Was it the same thing? Because then I'm noticing, like, really isn't that aware of, like, hey, my tackle's a sieve, I gotta step up, or I gotta know that at 1,000, 2, I gotta throw it. I can't sit there and bam, you just get crushed by a stray hand and you're done. So
Right.
yeah, it you fall into those routines, you fall into the hype or the scouting report. You read it, and then that's your template for following a person instead of
Right.
give me the eye test. I'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we've eclipsed the 3 hour mark by a few moments, but I'm just glad we did. That's because again, this is one of my favorite episodes. This is one of my favorite times to just babble on about stuff that I'm gonna be wrong about 99% of it. The only thing I know will happen will be the NFL draft will happen starting next Thursday. Get to hear Brad, which I love. You haven't made a lot of those. You're just sort of hot takes videos, which I remember were the staple back in the day, and it didn't even have to be.
I need to start doing that when I'm thinking of it, because the problem is I'll be like, oh, I might make a video next week. And by that point, the moment's passed where I used to just be like, you know what, this is pissing me off, or this is what I feel strongly about. And then I would just make the video that night.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the problem now is I'm like, or I'll wait till I have something to show with it when I realize I don't need nothing to show. I'm just talking about it. You know, but yeah, that's where the difference is. So then by the time I get to it the next week, I forget that that's what I wanted to talk about in the next video anyway.
I know that feeling.
Make a list, Brad. Make a list.
Yeah, that's the thing is now I have started, like before when we did these, I never had one thing written down ever. It was literally all up here. Now I notice as I'm getting older, it's like, what was that guy's name again? Now I'll have like little cheat sheets where I never, like in all my football videos, those were 100% from the mind. You know, none of it was written down. Now it's like I better write some stuff down, or I realize I forget half the crap I want to say.
Yeah, it happens as we age.
Yeah.
It gets bad.
But those I know, I'll speak for Steve being around nearly as long as all the old timers. That was something we always loved. I mean, it'd be 25 minutes. I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah.
Well, I've come to find out now in the kind of podcast era and more people working from home that people actually like the longer videos because they put it in the background while they're doing X. And, you know, you don't want to have to constantly get up and change something every 5 minutes for a new video. So I've actually noticed because it used to be those got very little views. And now I've noticed they're starting to get more. And people have told me that's what they do. They just turn me on when they're, you know, doing X in the background or even sorting cards in the background. They listen to it for half an hour. And I was like, oh, I guess I didn't really think about. So I might do some more of those maybe. I don't, you know.
Well, Dave,
you know how it is.
Dave gripes and complains when I don't make the super long videos that he was accustomed to. It's like I don't have as much to say these days. I don't have as much stuff to show. It's like then it sounds like I'm trying to push to just randomly talk about something, and it's like it doesn't work that well.
I hear from a lot of the guys I still watch. You'll say it once in a while if you get a bunch of stuff or you notice, oh, I'm over 20 minutes. Dave, you're gonna like this. Alan says, well, it's only a 15-minute video. Sorry, Dave, I can't figure out how to get over the 15-minute mark. He's still recording in like the 2011 YouTube time frame. Purple GT will say the same thing. He'll be like, oh, this is a 25-minute video. Only Amish Dave will be watching. Like, I've bitched about it enough over 12 plus years or 12 years that I love the long videos because it gives people a chance to actually listen to somebody. If you just show a card and say, hey, this is a cool card, look at it shiny, look at and you do that for 5 minutes, I don't get to know you. Maybe that's what you want, but at the same time, I'm always the guy that wants to feel the connection and like I don't want to surface level. I want to know some things you're thinking. If I could pick up something, even if it's not something intended, from like a conversation you're having about the card, about the transaction, about something, it's like, okay, I might gravitate more towards like Brad. Whereas before, it's like, oh, he's just showing off Dan Marino's. I don't care. If Dan Marino's in the Depends commercial, that's all I want to see. It's like, no, now he's got the exquisite. He's got some absolute patches. He's like, okay, now, and then Brad's talking football. I'm like, Brad's smart. Like, okay. Then we start watching Brad more instead of just people. Hey, this card it cost me $300, and this card cost me $500. Look at it, shiny, and this card's $1,000. Okay, that's great, but where is the road from you to that card? If it's just you saying, I like this card, I'll here money, I get the card. That's not a real. I don't care about that. That's again just me, but I want to know what or why folks gravitate towards stuff, and that's why I like the longer videos, because guess what? People start rambling like I'm doing now, and that tends to be like a 20-minute video, and I like it. And that just draws out the podcast too. I mean, again.
And of course causes Vinny to go off mute because he has something to say.
No, it was all just smart aleck comments, and I'll just hold them back.
What? You hold back? Wow. I'm glad I'm sitting down.
This is new setup.
Mark that on the calendar. Shut up, Dave. Wrap us up.
Tie a bow on it, Dave. Tie a bow on it.
Put a flower on top. Thank you to Brad for coming on here. Again, love seeing him on here. Love having him on here. That's again, like I said, one of our highlights. I know I'll speak for the two gentlemen below. When he has his litany of NFL knowledge. We didn't even get to talk hockey, which I know is his secret passion. His Blue Jackets got eliminated, I think, today or yesterday.
Yeah, officially.
So, maybe we'll do an NHL postseason preview, since I don't think anything else is going on.
I'll miss that episode.
You're going to be the screen. We're just going to be off in the Ethernet.
See how long he can go and fake it. You know, like.
Oh, I couldn't fake it very well. You could put me on the screen, but everybody else would be talking.
But thank you again, Brad, coming on here. I know schedule now has changed up, and always welcome here anytime. That's for sure. Thank you for Robert popping in. Always love Robert.
Yeah, he had to get some sleep. He sent us a text.
Okay. I think we put him to sleep.
No, that's not. He did not say that at all.
What? He didn't say it.
I think he's comfortable enough to sit there and be like, "Guys, you put me to sleep. I got." Yeah,
he'd probably tell us you're boring me to death. I'm gonna take a slumber.
No, most of us sit here and just listen because I don't watch a lot of college ball, and Brad takes the time to really dig into a lot of this, so I'm always intrigued to listen to what you bring to the table and your thought process and to me, sometimes I think you do deeper dives on some of these players than the guys that get paid to do this for a living. So it's nice to have that perspective that you bring to the table when it comes to, it's not just about also what teams need. It's you look at, and I hate to use the term intangibles, but I mean, you look past the needs, to a degree. So I enjoy just listening to it. And, I take what this episode looks like. And when I watch the draft, it's like I go back and I kind of replay some of this in my head of kind of what we talk about. And I'm like, well, there's one that Brad freaking nailed on the head. Shut up, Paul.
He's got a better setup than Mel Kiper.
Poor Mel. He's fallen off the deep end, man. I used to really enjoy Mel. Now, he's
Again, you want to be famous. You want to be more famous. You want your followers. It's just like I think it's the Daniel Jeremiah. I like him. I think more than McShay's decent enough. Kuiper's just he's getting to be the Dick Vitale of the NFL draft mix, where it's just you say something sort of get the pop or get a reaction.
right. That's what ESPN is just in general now. That's why they have him and McShay. It's because you're going to say the opposite of what he says, even though when you were on a small podcast with someone, you said the exact opposite 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 25 of the 32 first-round picks, and now it's like no, they'll never take him. No, I just heard this 2 nights ago. Oh, what changed? No gas mask, no Whizzinator, nothing. So thank you everybody for watching. You pick us up in the archives. Watch this before the draft, a couple days maybe. Maybe a couple days after.
Before you go too far, for those select few that are still here, or those who watch in the archive, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there, Dave, honestly, before we forget. The new series that premiered last Tuesday, for those that went and watched it, we appreciate it. For anybody who wants to be a part of a future episode, let one of us know. You will have to supply whatever product is we're busting.
You don't have sponsors?
We do not have sponsors. The better half sponsored the first episode, actually. So nice. For future episodes, we will not have a sponsor from that perspective.
That was the Mosaic, right?
Yeah,
it was.
I watched that. Okay. Yeah.
So it's if you want to be a part of it, one of us know. We'll kind of have to figure out how we'll work the schedule or whatnot. But the only expectation is that you break the same thing that we are breaking.
Yeah.
If we're breaking a blaster, you break a blaster. If we're doing a few fat packs, you're doing a couple. So we want to keep it consistent. But let us know either on if you have our phone number, text us, DM us on Instagram, either one. Any one of the three of us. Brad, that also goes for you if you want to be a part of it, if you want to join us at one point. We recorded that on like a Saturday evening, I think. Sunday night. So
me and Dave will open up 09 Exquisite next week.
No, it's strictly retail stuff that we can actually get hands on. But yeah, no 09 Exquisite. I mean, hell, 09 Exquisite may be only $200. It may be worth us to do it. Who knows? Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Paul. We don't have sponsors. We don't live in our parents' basement. And get paid to go to card shows and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're not paying tickets for Dallas and Charlotte and LA or San Fran or Lake Tahoe. We aren't the human stink line. We're not.
We don't get jets. Not happening. There will be no hobby breaks, and if there are, it's going to be probably older stuff that's nobody wants to watch.
Yeah, we're not Team Comedian. We can't. We're not breaking packs with people at Chantilly. And
we can open some 87 tops, maybe. We'll see how many views we get on that video. I'm picking on you, Vinny, because I know you mentioned that. I love 87 tops too, because I open quite a few packs in my day.
That would great.
I'm talking about the affordability aspect of hobby.
Yeah, trying to afford hobby now. We have a couple, 3, 4, 5 new car payments.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you noticed Beerhead hasn't been doing any group breaks the last year? I haven't not been showing it to you. I just haven't joined them because it's like there's literally no value in it. Like I can't.
No.
You literally have to hit the one card in the case. So the one
Yeah.
winner. That ain't how I roll. I'm good. I don't even. I used to look at every checklist when it came in. Now I don't even bother to look at. I just look at the price tag and go, nope, no, it's not worth that.
Yeah, it's getting out of control. We can only hope that at some point it starts getting better. Manufacturers aren't helping the issue with putting out these high price points for hobby. Anyways, that's part of the problem, and the issue is people are going to pay them for whatever reason. People are going to pay the price, so they can charge whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
So, but that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, David. Just I thought about it. I originally wanted to do it the first part of the show, but knowing that this was going to be one of those longer episodes because there's quite a bit to cover as it pertains to, free agency and then of course the draft. I at least wanted to throw that out there for anybody who wants to join. And yes, Eric, I know you're probably not here. We will do hockey at some point too. So you can get your hockey fix at some point.
I didn't even have to break the glass tonight. I was prepared.
He got his fix briefly and then probably left because he knew that this was not going to be anything
you wanted to watch.
Yeah, any good opportunity to show off hockey cards. So go ahead, Dave. Finish this up, my friend.
So remember, dislike, comment with 4-letter swear words, unsubscribe, blast us anywhere on social media. Any publicity is good publicity, especially with us. Donate dollars, the American currency. OnlyFans, Patreon, Discord, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, money order, well-concealed cash, UPS shipments, Brinks truck, whatever. You can send us a high-end PSA 12 cards, anything. Just send us something. Don't send a shit in a bag, though. That's where we have to draw the line. We got to draw it somewhere. Just saying. So, thank you again for Brad, for Steve, for Vinny, for Robert, who is not here, and Chair. Can't forget Chair, the illustrious one. And Dave, this has been the IRP, the Instant Revolution podcast. Remember, collecting cards, absolute enjoyment. It's so much fun. The relationships that it brings in the hobby, second to none. That's what it's really about. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.